Welcome to Pensar Basketball Live. The Toronto Raptors snapped their losing streak against the absolutely hapless Atlanta Hawks. 135 to 128, second time in as many games the Raptors crossed the 130 mark. This is a team that was at times earlier in the season struggling to crack 100 points and would often be under 110. So how did they suddenly start to blitz up the scoring? Well, I mean, it helps that you don't play defense. It certainly helps that you play a team like this that doesn't play defense either. And it was a bit of a who wants it less in the first half, right? It felt like an NBA All-Star game, right? You're just going back and forth, exchanging baskets, and ESPN needs IKD saying 2 more wins for the pizza party. I don't know why everyone has just magically started to assume that it would be a pizza party. I think Darko Rajakovic has bigger things in mind. Anyways, the Raptors get a huge performance from Pascal Siakam, who starts out, sort of attacking the paint, living inside, and then he starts to get out, and he has his best three-point shooting game since Milwaukee. And I think at one point he was 4 for 5 or 5 for 6. He was very efficient tonight. The Raptors get a stable performance in terms of point guard play from Dennis Schroeder and Malachi Flynn. Malachi Flynn gets 8 assists off the bench in 17 minutes for only 2 turnovers. I think he was pretty solid offensively. Defensively, he got absolutely blitzed by Trae Young, and I'm surprised that they kept going back to that and the Raptors didn't make an adjustment. In terms of just overall shot distribution, I think the Raptors were efficient. This is a team that was really struggling. This is the worst three-point shooting team in the league, and they shot 53% from three tonight on pretty good volume. And that was a pretty balanced attack all around. That was Pascal, that was OG, and that was Siakam. A lot has been made that the Raptors can't seem to get these three players going in the same game. Well, it seems to be becoming a bit of a trend now that they seem to be all going at the same time. And it's difficult. This type of game is difficult because you look at, the Hawks are losers of 4 straight coming into this. You're losers of 4 straight going into this. It's almost like which team is going to continue their losing streak. And it would be very easy for you as a fan right now to be like, okay, it all works. Dennis was pretty tame. He didn't do a lot of, crazy stuff tonight. He was pretty efficient. He hit some shots. He hit some shots in the mid-range. He hit some shots from deep. Everything was pretty in control. He didn't have any sort of like big time, bet on yourself type of numbers. And, he's the one starter really that doesn't shoot above 50%, but 5 for 11 is pretty solid. 3 for 4 from 3, 4 for 4 from the line for Dennis Schroeder. He doesn't over dominate the basketball. The Raptors get like a healthy dose of assists all across the board. I mean, you got Malachi with 8, Dennis with 7, Siakam with 7, Anunoby with 3, and Barnes and Pirtle with 6 apiece. This was kind of like exactly how Darko Rajakovic has wanted to play, this sort of egalitarian, multiple playmaker, that type of thing, right? There's one way to look at this and just say, okay, this is finally clicking. The Raptors may have turned a corner. They finally got their better players clicking and getting going at the same time. Even Gary Trent Jr., a guy who has been really struggling. He hit 4 threes tonight, right? In terms of three-pointers made, Siakam, 5 for 6. Barnes, 3 for 4. Schroeder, 3 for 4. Anunoby, 2 for 5. Jakob Poeltl almost faked a little, it was nice. Jakob Poeltl hitting 5 for 8 free throws, 4 for 4 down the stretch. Gary Trent, 4 for 8. I mean, man, you were solid. You were solid tonight. It's so tempting right now to say, oh, I if only the Raptors could build on this. If only the Raptors can build on this. I hate to break it to you. Sometimes your opponent doesn't show up. The Raptors would know a lot about that. There have been a lot of teams that have been let off the hook when the Raptors haven't shown up. Tonight, the Atlanta Hawks did not show up. My opinion, it's just my opinion. I think there was a lot of just gutless defense from the Atlanta Hawks time and time again. Their best players were not very good. From the Atlanta Hawks side, statistically, yeah, sure. Trae Young, 35 points, 17 assists. You're like, wow, what more can this guy do? I thought he killed them. Like, he absolutely dominated the shit out of the basketball so many times. Yeah, he had some really, really hot shooting at certain stretches, but man, he did a lot of damage to this team. Those 5 turnovers, man, you really felt them, right? And Dejounte Murray, yeah, 20 points. I don't think he had a great game. Bogdanovic coming off of a 40 piece. I don't think he had a great game. I think Onyeka Okongwu played pretty well. I think he was pretty solid. He raced a lot of mistakes, but just defensively, this team is just like a turnstile. It's like whatever you want, man, whatever you want. Like, just come on in, come on into the paint, do whatever the hell you want. OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, Gary Trent. I mean, this is just a team that is going to struggle with players like the Raptors have. And, if you're the Raptors and you really, really want to be a playoff team, this is a team you got to aim to beat 4 times. Christopher Chu saying, let's see Friday when we face them again. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. This is a team that's, maybe, but I'm sorry. Like, they're just not a team that's played well all year. They got off to a pretty hot start, and then lately it's just been really bad. Jalen Johnson's a huge part of what they're doing well. He did not play tonight. He has not played in a while, and he's going to be out for a while. So, this could be a team. I mean, okay, so we're not great defensively either. Yeah, that's putting it very lightly. We have been absolutely ass. Offensively, we have been mediocre, but getting a little bit better. But defensively, we've fallen off a cliff. Talks of being a top 5 defensive team, we are, lately we've been a bottom 10 defensive team. And with this personnel, it's hard to justify that. How often the Raptors are late in rotation, how often, they're just giving blow-bys. Just some of it is scheme related, some of it is transition stuff. But yeah, like Greg F saying, gotta be honest, I love Bogdanovic's play style tonight. I think he could really complete this team. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think he is really good. December 14th, tomorrow, Peru makes some moves. Darren, I wouldn't hold my breath. Now, it's funny because I was having this conversation in the comment section with Raptors Digest, and we were talking about, in response to his last video in which he said, changes are coming. And I think my exact comment was, don't be surprised with this team. It's not hard to get it clicking against this Atlanta Hawks team, and it's going to look good. But against teams that are good, you've been bad. I mean, sometimes against teams that are bad, you've been really bad. But even against teams that are like, I mean, okay, you beat the Phoenix Suns, and I think that's one game I think I can give credit. Early on, you catch the Jalen McDaniels or Jaden McDaniels lists, Minnesota Timberwolves, and that game you just get away with it. And then there was the Milwaukee game before Milwaukee really got it clicking. But it's like so much of this is when you play teams, right? If you play the Atlanta Hawks early on, you might lose, right? You're playing them right now on the heels of a 5-game losing streak. They're having injury issues galore. They're not playing well at all. You win. You're not playing well. They're not playing well. Someone has to win. So I think the most encouraging thing about this game for me was Siakam. Like, him getting going, it gives me a lot of hope that, okay, he's been missing open shots all season long. He's been shooting like sub 30% on open threes. So it doesn't really matter who the fuck the competition is at this point. Him shooting 5 for 6 from 3 for me is a very encouraging sign. If he can do that, that could be awesome. Gary Trent Jr. going. Like, sometimes it could just be, turn the click. And look, defense comes and goes. It shouldn't. Certainly it shouldn't. But it's a communication thing. It's an effort thing. And I think this team is more than capable of being really good defensively. I really do. Okay. Yes, I agree. Siakam's play was totally within the rhythm of the game. I agree. Siakam was great. Like he didn't disrupt anything. He didn't really go outside of himself. It wasn't like last year at all. It wasn't like some of his more ball dominant games this year. This was very, very reminiscent of the Milwaukee game, in which he just sort of found things in the flow of the game. And, putting up 33 points, and of course, the connotation and the backdrop of this game being that, hey, Siakam was almost traded to the Hawks, and now, you're going up against the Hawks. And certainly, I don't think I would have blamed him if he'd kind of come out and laid an egg in this game. But for him to come out and just be like super duper duper tough in this game offensively was impressive. Now, defensively, holy shit. Like Siakam, Barnes, Anunoby, Flynn. I mean, this team is just lost defensively. It's everywhere. Schroeder, Pirtle. Holy shit. I mean, how many times did Clint Capella get behind Jakob Pirtle? I mean, this is just it's constant. It's all the players, right? And again, I think if you're the Raptors, or if you're a Raptor fan, you kind of saw another team out there that's kind of playing like you were playing, right? I mean, the example of Bogdanovic going up for that layup and none of his team running, just even running. Guys getting beat, Trae Young getting beat repeatedly over and over, and none of his teammates helping. I mean, Onyeka Okongwu, bless his heart, came over a couple times to clean up some mess, but it didn't feel like this was a team that was very connected. And you just sort of faced a team that kind of came in expecting to win. I think like you kind of got that air of arrogance from them. They put up 39 points in the first quarter. They get out to that early lead, 39-31, and you just feel like this team just kind of waltzed in, and they thought they could turn it on in the second half, and they couldn't. Excuse me one second. Still recovering. Anyways, please do hit like on this video, and if you've got something to say, call in. The call-in link is now live. It wasn't live for most of the early parts of when this live went up, but it has been added as of 15 minutes ago. So yeah, definitely call in if you got something to say. And yeah, like let's take a look at some of these individual performances, and yeah, make it a little bit bigger so that you can see it a little bit better. Yeah, so I mean, the Hawks shoot 44% from three. Certainly, not great defense. That's significantly above league average, but this is a team that can shoot. And Bogdanovic, I think he was good overall. Again, far cry from the 40 points he dropped. And, I think they have like really interesting and good guards, like dynamic guards, right? Like Dejounte, Trae Young, they can all sort of break you down off the dribble. And tonight it's like, I think like every time they kind of got some rhythm, it was like there was Trae Young to kind of screw it up, and it's hard to be so critical of a player who put up 35 and 17 again on 27 shots. It's a pretty efficient night. And this is where I say, like, box score watching, like, you have to watch the game. I think he played a horrible game. Like, there were times, of course, like those assists, some of them were very, very, very impressive. But this sort of helio ball, like just kind of dominating possessions, I think it wasn't great. And again, defensively, he just got ruined, you know? The paint was just wide open. I don't think Clint Capella is the long-term answer for them. I'm surprised that they don't play Onyeka Okongwu more. Now that he's added the three-pointer, it's like it's going to improve your spacing as well. It's just reluctance on Quinn Snyder's part to just sort of start the guy and just get it over with. He's a little bit undersized as a center, but I think it would have really spread the Raptors out a little bit more if they didn't have Capella in there. So yeah, that's just sort of my read on it. Let's see. Sadiq Bey, I think he was very inefficient tonight. But kudos to him for just kind of like attacking the offensive glass and just it's being a menace in there. Clint Capella, as much as I can say about the lack of spacing he provides, he got on the offensive glass as well. He got 6 offensive rebounds. And again, that's less of a, kudos to him, more of a kudos to the Raptors' lack of defense. Chris Boucher, I think, was pretty bad tonight. Like I didn't like his game at all. And Precious Achiuwa was marginally okay. Offered some good minutes. Yeah, in terms of Dennis Schroeder, obviously been on a bit of a tirade about him and a rant about him needing to be benched, etc. I remain absolutely convinced that he would be much, much better off the bench, that there's a myriad of reasons why this should be the case and why this is very obvious at this point. But of course, you take a game like this, you beat a team that isn't absolutely, the Detroit Pistons / Washington Wizards. And if you're Darko Rajakovic, if you're convinced that this is the starting lineup, well, now you have some ammunition to say, well, see, look, it worked for one night. And, Dennis didn't dominate the possessions. And look, but you just think like, what isn't happening that could be happening? Like, you don't know if he's not starting, if this isn't like a 35-point blowout. You just don't know that, right? You can never know what you didn't do. You only know you only have data for what you did, right? So you don't know if this could have been a 35-point blowout and, a 50 piece for Siakam and 40 piece for Barnes if he's not in the game. To his credit, I don't think he was overly dominant. To the people who think that, Scottie would struggle, handling the ball as a point guard, he has a really costly turnover in the fourth quarter, where he gets that full court press. He's not expecting it. I think it was Bogdanovic. I mean, I don't know why he panicked there, but he throws it to OG. He claims that Dejounte Murray tips the pass. I have no idea if he tipped the pass. I remain pretty clear that Scottie has been pretty inaccurate with his passing pretty much the entire series. The entire season to date. So that was not overly surprising. There was a couple of passes tonight that were just, what the hell? There was like a pass where Precious Achiuwa, bringing the ball up the court, passes it behind Malachi, and then, Malachi gets spun around, and Darko does basically a somersault on the sideline with his hands over his head. Like, oh my God. Someone said the other day, Darko Rajakovic looks like he's aged 10 years in 20 games. I don't know about 10 years, but he certainly looks like he's aged a couple of years since taking the job. Like, this is absolutely, I mean, yeah, if you understand basketball, this is a team that'll really keep you up at night. It's crazy. Anyways, let's bring on Coach Mo. Coach Mo, what up?
I agree that not much defense was played today. So, I mean, you got to take this game with a grain of salt.
Hmm.
Um, Last game, I think the thing I didn't like was OG, Scottie, and Pascal combined for 11 assists, and Dennis combined for 10. That's not a recipe for success for us. And
Yeah,
today,
it's
today
much
is a
better.
much better ratio, and you have to actually include Jakob because Jakob, I think, is a better passer than Dennis is. Like, to me, Dennis is the fourth best passer in our starting lineup.
Yeah, he is.
So if the assist ratios have to be like, to me, if we're gonna be set up for success with this current roster, Scottie has to lead the team in assists on average, then Pascal, and then Jakob and Dennis should be really close.
Yeah,
That if that's how it's gonna be, we have a chance.
that makes a lot of sense, actually. And I think a couple of times I saw Dennis move off the ball in the third quarter, fourth quarter, where Scottie's initiating, even late in the fourth quarter. 4 minutes to go or so, and Scottie's bringing the ball up the court. And then I think the next possession down, it was Siakam initiating. Like, this makes the offense far less predictable
Oh,
and so much easier. But I understand why Dennis initiates, and it's because when you start to, like, today, I really paid attention. This is a really bad defensive team, so maybe it's like the wrong game to pay attention to this. But how defenses really react to this guy, Dennis Schroeder, it's offensive.
yeah, it really is. Even his floaters. Did you see that one possession at the end of the game where OG had Trae Young and Scottie's pointing, pass it to OG, pass it to OG, and
Mm-hmm.
Dennis he does the thing where he does his like, I'm Chris Paul, I'm pointing, I'm chirping, but he's really doing nothing. And he's just dribbling the air out of the ball. and then he goes in for a floater, and Capella just does a half step, raises his hand like he barely contested. And you're right. It's disrespect. They don't care about him.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing. They're like, just score 100.
No, I agree. Yeah. NY4 Raps, thank you so much for the super chat. And that's American. Nice. Thanks a lot, man. Great change in plays today. Time to pull trade with Golden State Warriors because Draymond Green will be out for a while. Damn. Yes. Thank God. I swear. I tweeted out yesterday that if Draymond Green gets banned from the NBA, I will lose absolutely zero sleep. That swing on Nurkic and the absolute ass, presser afterwards, where he just acts like, yo, I don't know, I was just trying to sell the call. Like, fuck yourself, man. So many fucking clips of this guy just taking cheap shot after cheap shot. So you know what? Yeah, I think
they're saying he's targeting Europeans. That's the joke. He's targeting Europeans.
He's been very complimentary of. No, I mean, he's just a piece of shit, man. Like, honestly,
saying,
like
his victim.
I have lost so much respect for Draymond. And I mean, yeah, you can make a case that he's targeting Europeans. There's Rudy Gobert. He stepped on Domantas Sabonis's chest, and now he takes a swing at Yusuf Nurkic. Like, what the fuck? Like, it's just, yeah, it's weird. It's weird. I mean, and of course, who can forget Jordan Pulovic? The Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's just trash. But Brandon Pachinski just put up a 20-piece.
Yeah.
2010, 2011, and 5 for the Golden State Warriors.
He looks like he can't play ball though. Just aesthetically, he looks like he can't play ball. But man,
you're saying Ken, right?
No, aesthetically, if you just look at him, he looks like he can't play ball.
Are you saying can't or Ken?
Yeah, can't. When I see him, I don't see a basketball player. But he's nice.
Pachinski?
Yeah.
What do you not like about him?
No, I'm saying if I just saw him, I wouldn't think he was good at basketball.
But if you saw Dennis Schroeder, would you think he was good at basketball?
On
the playground, come on.
He's on the playground, yeah. Warm-ups? Oh, hell yeah. Warm-ups? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The warm-up player. By the way, speaking of Dennis, I feel like today he was on like his best behavior. It's like someone tapped him on the shoulder and said, "You're the 5th best starter," and act like it. And he's like trying his best to not be in the way, which then begs the question. But I understand him bringing the ball up the floor. I really do. Him and Flynn should have like similar play styles. Honestly.
Yeah.
They're actually not that far off. They're actually not that far off in terms of what they provide for the team.
But it's funny because Flynn had that beautiful pass to Gary Trent in transition, found him right in his pocket, and I'm like, if that's Schroeder, and Schroeder was on the court, by the way, they ran that 2-point guard lineup, and I'm like, if that's Schroeder, he's not making that pass. And it's a subtle shit. It's this very small stuff where he is just not a floor general. No. You are playing point guardless basketball, just like the Pistons, just like, the Spurs, just like the Wizards, right? All these teams that are struggling right now are struggling because they don't really have a point guard on the floor.
But his job is basically to babysit the ball up the court.
Yeah.
That's basically 90% of his duties.
Right. But I think the problem is that, when he gets up, he's initiating or table setting the offense. He almost always is running off way too much clock, and he's doing everything slowly. And the guy that he passes to is almost like the wrong guy always. Like there was this play right towards the end of the game where Scottie gets the ball. So Dennis gets trapped. He passes over to Scottie. Scottie passes over to Pascal. Pascal passes over to OG, right? It was perfect. It was ping, 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 ping. Perfect basketball. And the whole thing was like clearly exploiting the fact that the Hawks had, compromised their defense by pressuring up on Dennis. They were totally imbalanced on the back line of their defense. And all you had to do was make the right pass, right? Yeah. And once Schroeder passed to Barnes basically passed to Siakam to pass to OG. He didn't pass to OG and then, allow OG to get a charge or, have put OG in a compromised position because OG wasn't in the same position to play make for Siakam. And that forward vision of putting a guy not only in a position to score, but rather sometimes putting a guy in a position to play make is exactly what Scottie does that Schroeder doesn't do. It's that forward vision to know the pass that leads to the pass. Let me set that guy up. Now, sometimes it doesn't work because the guy that he's passing to make the pass is Chris Boucher, and he does not get the memo, or Precious Achua, and he just stumbled over his feet. So I see guys like Bogdanovic, Pajemski, Jaime Jaquez. I see guys like Julian Strother, and these are not old players. I think I named 3 rookies. Jordan Hawkins, there's another rookie. I'm seeing a lot of rookies who know how to play basketball in the NBA, across the NBA. Jaime Jaquez is one of them. As I said, Wemby is another one. He knows how to play basketball. These guys, they're not idiots. Like, they're not like doing the same stuff that Precious Achua and Chris Boucher are doing with the basketball. And, to some extent, Dennis Schroeder also is doing with the basketball at times. So there are like guys where just like, oh my God, like if you could just get Scottie, like the players around him that can consistently make the right reads off of his reads, I think it would be so much more effective.
I think it's just for Dennis, it's tough because he can only really play one position. He doesn't have the size to play the 2, right? He doesn't have the shooting to play.
6'7" wingspan, 6'1" height. I think he wouldn't be the smallest player in the world to ever try to play the 2, right?
I mean, can you put him on Bogdanovic? Bogdanovic would just shoot over him.
I mean, here's the thing. Increasingly, I'm noticing, and I've been noticing for a while, that better teams are bigger teams. The Raptors championship team was a really big team.
Yes.
The Bucks championship team that won was a really big team.
Mm-hmm.
The Lakers were a really big team. Yep. Anthony Davis, Dwight Howard, LeBron James. That was a very big team. You go back, to the Celtics right now. They're a big team. Orlando's a huge team. You look around the league and teams that are doing well are huge, and they're huge across the board. They're huge in the front court, but they're also huge in the back court. Drew Holiday is a really big point guard, and he's going to give the Raptors hell, right?
Yeah, the Lakers, all the length they had on Tyrese.
Absolutely
is struggling to get shots off. Struggling.
Absolutely. So while I understand, the concerns and trepidations about, getting the ball safely up the court, I think what you're losing defensively by having Dennis on the court, by having Malachi on the court, by having almost one of these guys and sometimes both of them on the court at the same time, it's absolutely, backwards to not use all this length on your roster and to constantly play smaller than you have to, quite frankly. And again, the Raptors are huge. They're a huge team. Even with Dennis on the court, they're a really big team. He's got 6'7" wingspan. Scottie is like the biggest shooting guard in the league at about 6'8.5", 6'9", with a 7'4" wingspan. OG is huge for a small forward. Pascal is average size for a power forward, and Jakob's one of the bigger centers in the NBA. So they've got 7'2", 7'3" plus wingspan across all of the four positions. And then Dennis is no slouch himself with about a 6'7" wingspan. So how the hell is it that this team is so bad defensively and in the half court and in transition? They're just terrible. And in theory, they should be at least minimum top 10 because, and I wonder how much of it is like, okay, your terrible offense and your missed threes are putting so much pressure on your transition defense. But even on a night like tonight where the shot is clicking, their defense is still absolutely ass.
Yeah.
And so you wonder, is it personnel? Is it effort? Is it attention to detail? Is it communication? Is it help?
I mean, best defenders suck right now. Everyone sucks.
Yeah, absolutely. Scottie's not doing, jack shit defensively. There was a stretch in the third quarter where he just decided, okay, game's over. And I think that point was the tilt from which the Hawks did not really recover. There was a 3, there was a block, there was an amazing pass, there was another pass. Like, it was just he does this, occasionally. Like he puts a 2-minute game, and kudos to Darko Rajakovic for changing up his rotation a little bit. He didn't change his starting lineup.
In
In the third, he
Yeah.
changed his rotation. So Scottie does not go to the bench. I think it was OG and Dennis go to the bench in
Yeah.
favor of Gary Trent Jr. and was it Malachi Flynn or
but that forced the double point guard lineup, which makes no sense to me.
yeah, but I mean the lineup did well for the most part. Like I think that like in that brief stint, they were doing pretty well. Scottie and Pascal were playing well off of each other. Pascal creating for Scottie, Scottie creating for Pascal. And then I'm just like, oh, here comes, Darko's fucking idiotic, 5 minutes into the quarter, got to put Scottie on the bench thing. And then he avoids it partially. I think partially it's because, Scottie and OG picked up that third foul in the second quarter. And maybe he just thought to himself, okay, like, I can change the rotations up a little bit, or he just adjusted the rotation based on how well Scottie was playing with
Or it could be
Siakam.
minutes totals, or it could be Scottie missed some time in the second because of foul trouble. So it's like getting your minutes, the total minutes. It might be that. But
Maybe
like a game like today, it's like we shot 53% from three. Pascal made 5 of 6 from three. Jakob he's making free throws, clutch free throws. This one, it's like you're not replicating this against a good defense.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I mean, kudos to the Raptors. I mean, you're going to play who's in front of you.
Yes,
the Raptors are now 10-14. They have another game against the Hawks. I think they can win it. That's 11-14.
Yep.
Then they have, I think, the Charlotte Hornets. I just look at the schedule and see where this team is going to be. Hang on one second. So Raptors.
Also,
schedule.
I liked how we used Jakob, where if we get him the ball early in the high post and then run action off that, I really like that. I don't want to see Jakob Schroeder pick and roll. I don't want to see much of it. It's just a time waster. Like most of the time, it just eats clock. Just get the ball to our best players' hands through Jakob. I think that's the best way to go.
There's a Twitter channel called Pascal Propaganda.
Yeah,
and they're quite hilarious at times.
It's a hilarious title.
Yeah, and he had this one. He was just like, "Yo, the Raptors really about to trade Pascal Siakam because they need a better spacer for the Dennis Siakam pick and roll." And I was just like, "Yo, sometimes you're right, sometimes you're factual. This is factual."
That thing is a clock eater. That all it does. It's just a freaking such a waste of time and a waste of Jakob's gifts.
Yeah, and sorry, I'm trying to get to, let's see here, Raptors schedule. Okay.
Also, Flynn with 8 dimes, but can't score a lick. 8 dimes, which I'm happy. But it's like
I don't care.
No, Rob. You know what's funny? Flynn had 8 assists. Can't run a fast break to save his life. Ain't that?
I mean, but he had like brilliant pass to Gary Trent Jr.
I know, but again, there was no clock left, so he didn't have to think. Sometimes it's best when you don't have to think. Just make the play. You have no time.
Fair enough. Yeah. Let's see here. This is the upcoming schedule. Okay, so we are 10-14. So against the Hawks, you could be 11-14, 12-14. Then you go up against Denver, Philly. So assume you lose those 2 games. And okay, so
our defense, yeah, those are 2 losses, 100%.
Okay, so 12-14, you go 12-16, then Utah, Washington. I think it's possible to win both of those games for sure. So now you're 14-16, which is pretty much around 500. Then you go into Boston and Detroit, and then you split those, right? And what's interesting is that game against Detroit could be very interesting for a million reasons. But one of those reasons would be that they would be possibly on the precipice of making history. Yeah. Because if they continue to lose, I mean, anyways, my point is you could exit 2023 pretty much around 500. And I mean,
Assuming
and
we beat
as I
all the
say
bad
this,
teams. Assuming we
pardon?
beat all the bad teams.
That is correct. I
Which is
mean,
a
that's
big
you all you need to do here is beat the Hawks, who are really bad, and you're at home.
difference. So are
Then
we.
and you got to beat the
So are
Charlotte
we.
Hornets at home, right? And then you got Denver coming in, and maybe you can steal one of these. I mean, as much as I would say, like, hey, like we got to beat this, whatever. Maybe you can steal one of these Denver or Philly games, right? I
And if we
mean,
do, we're going to lose to a bad team. It's just who we are. Just know that. We're not running
okay,
the table, Rob. We're not running the table. It's not happening.
hey, yo, like what I want to know is, Darko gives them like a 3 game. If you get 3 games in a row, right? You get dinner. What do you get for 4 games in a row? What do you get for 5 games in a row? And what if you get 6 games in a row? Do you get dinner again? That's what I would love to know. Or do you get like a trip? Like an all expenses cruise paid for by Darko Rajakovic. My point is, like, this team has been known to turn a corner around this time of the year. Okay. They've done it a few times, and every single time they've done it, we've traded a first round pick. Because it's like, yes, I told you it works.
If you can remember, what was the worst record we had? Like, how many games below 500 did we reach at our lowest point last year? It must have been like 2.
No.
Really?
We got worse than that for sure. Yeah,
We were never
absolutely.
like 4 games below 500 though.
Yes, we were.
Really?
Hold on. Yeah, absolutely. Let me just double check here.
I swear we were hovering around 500 the entire time last year.
No.
It was win one, lose one for like the longest time.
So we started out the season. I think it was 4-4, and then we ended up 8-8 after the Siakam stuff. Like, Siakam gets injured. We were 500 when Siakam got injured. I think we were 500 without him, 500 with him. He comes back. When he came back, I think we struggled. Hang on, I'll just confirm.
Okay. No, the chat is saying we started like 2-8. We were 5 games below. All right.
We didn't start 2-8. Chat is wrong. We were not 2-8. Fuck are y'all talking about? Weren't we 2-8 something? Nick laugh. No, you are absolutely incorrect.
There's no way we were that much below 500.
No, we were not 2-8.
Oh,
hang on.
By the way, one random note that's a positive. When was the last time you heard Scottie Barnes' 3-point percentage will come down to earth? Small sample size. We're done with the small sample size, aren't we? That crowd just disappeared, didn't they? They just left like Homer Simpson in the bush.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. And yeah, I hope they stay in the bush, forever and ever. Okay, so let's see here. So the Raptors started out, this is last year. Okay. So this is okay, so they start out with a win. So they go 2-2, 3-2, 3-3, 5-3, 5-4. Okay. Yeah, so they were around 500. And then they go, so this is like sort of post-mortem of last year. So this is the game, the ninth game where Siakam goes out. And then they proceed to go 500 the rest of the way, splitting. So they beat,
like win 2, lose 2, win 1, lose 1.
Yeah, they beat the Bulls, lose to the Bulls, beat the Houston Rockets, lose to OKC, lose to Indiana, beat Detroit, beat Miami, lose to Atlanta, lose to Brooklyn, beat Dallas, beat Cleveland again. And this is right around
the New Orleans game. You got to get to the New Orleans game. Remember that New Orleans game?
Where was that game?
Right there. You're almost there. -18. That's when it.
Yeah.
That's the game everybody remembers.
Yeah, when Zion went crazy.
Zion just destroyed us.
Yeah, that picture of Zion. So yeah, so I think like right here, like
Ooh,
you start.
My goodness, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's a 7-game losing streak. Jeez. Yep, the double Orlando game. Yep, there it is. The 2 Orlando losses.
Yeah. So this is about as bad as it got. Now, what was the record at this point?
Well, we're about 500, so we can just assume below 7.
Jeez. Yeah, so it got really bad.
Okay.
And right
Wow.
around there, and then, they go on a little bit of a win.
Okay. And would you
Yeah.
say we're less talented than last year? Would you say that? Well, okay. Here's my question. Uh,
Well, David Thorpe seems to
Fred in
believe
place
that,
of Schroeder in place of Fred, but Scottie's jump. Which team's better?
I
Last year,
mean,
Scottie. This year, Scottie. Schroeder, Fred. Like, if you had to,
honestly, the gap between Scottie last year and Scottie this year is bigger than the gap between Schroeder and Fred, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way in hell, if you get this version of Scottie Barnes last year,
Can I give you a
that
caveat?
team is 500.
Can I give you a caveat?
Sure.
Last year's team is off-ball Fred. This year's team is off-ball Dennis. Who wins? Who wins? They're both bought in.
Off ball Fred, man. You
Okay.
kidding me? He's a better defender. He's a better shooter. He's a better playmaker. He's better at everything
So
other
you're
than
saying Dennis
dribble.
off-ball and the
Mhm.
new Scottie would lose to off-ball Fred and worse Scottie.
Oh, that's a good point. I think it would be really close. And the reason I say that is because of this. I don't actually think that Scottie was as bad as he looked last year,
No, I agree.
but I also don't think he was as good as he is this year. Like, he has taken a jump for sure. I just feel like people think it's a much bigger jump than it really is because his jump was muted last year. So,
One thing I heard.
oh my God, Rue, are you kidding me? Cap, Fred ain't a better defender than Dennis. Yo, you gotta be kidding me.
He's a much better help defender. Like, so
Yeah.
much better help defender.
He's a
If
better
you show the ball to
he's a better
Fred-
help defender, team
Oh.
defender, communicator, post defender. He's better at everything defensively other than maybe the point of attack stuff. And honestly, the point of attack stuff with Dennis has slipped so much over the last 10 games, man. You were leaking oil
And
everywhere.
Fred does what Lowry used to do so well, which is if the big men bring the ball down, it's gone. He can help on big men because his dig is like top tier.
Yeah, I mean, look, like Michael Furlano saying, are you forgetting his point of attack defense laughed my ass off? Yeah, are you forgetting that, like, I mean, it takes 5 players to play defense? Like, yeah, maybe Fred's lost a lot of steps as a point of attack defender, but he is still a far cry from being worse than Dennis Schroeder defensively. Like, you really, really need to think about what you're saying here. And trust me, this is coming from someone who's very, very critical of Fred's defense last year. He wasn't great. He's been much better this year because I think his load on offense is just less, and he's just like
Matt Devlin. One of the few stats I found interesting because mostly he's just a mouthpiece whose homer levels are over 9,000. But he said Scottie, this game was the first game Scottie hit a corner 3 in 14 games, which lets me know he's a star because stars don't take corner 3s. Stars create corner 3s. Kevin Durant doesn't take corner 3s.
Wait, for real?
He does. He does in a sense, but to me, the best players take the bulk of their 3s from the top of the key. To me,
oh, you're right. You're right. Absolutely. The center of the court is like the star zone.
Yes, the star zone. You don't see Luka taking many corner 3s.
Yeah, you really don't. I'm shocked by that. That is an interesting stat. And I don't even believe it.
Siakam lives in the corner, by the way, for the Pascal propaganda Twitter page.
True. Shot chart. Hang on. Like, I'm curious to see what Scottie's shot chart looks like.
I was shocked when Matt said that stat. But when you think about it, he takes a lot of above the break 3s because he has no choice. He has to chase the floor.
I mean, okay, so I'm gonna just quickly flash.
Who else is going to take the above the break 3s? Because that's not even OG's strength. As good of a OG is from the 3, he's not that great from above the break. And I remember in the summer, Darko challenged OG to be above the break 3-point shooter.
Yeah, no, I mean, I mean, Scottie is doing a lot of his damage here, right?
Yeah.
So 43% there, 37% there.
No, I read
41% corner.
After today's game, Scottie's 39.4% from three, which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like, and there's one corner where he's not doing so well, 2 for 8, 25%.
He should be 40 because they robbed his three last game.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
doesn't matter because it wouldn't have made a difference in the game.
Gone saying, did you see the fourth quarter when Schroeder refused to pass the ball to OG and Scottie, and OG just smiled in frustration, and Scottie waved his hands up?
I saw that. I rewinded it.
I didn't see it.
OG just smiled. He just laughed it off. And Scottie's pointing. He's like, get it to him early. But Dennis has to do his, he has to dribble.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is a very interesting shot chart because, I mean, if I showed you, I'm not quite ready to call this like a Kevin Durant level shot chart.
What I'm saying is
it's getting closer, man.
Yeah.
Like if I show you like his shot chart from last year, it fucking does not look like this.
Like you can't be a superstar. To me, you can't be a superstar wing and have the bulk of your threes be corner threes.
Let me tell you this. Like honestly, this shot chart is like 2 tweaks away from being superstar level. I'll tell you the 2 tweaks. Tweak number 1 here. 57% from here is just unacceptable. He needs to get to like 62. Okay. If he can get that, and if he can get more shots in this area, right here, right? And it can be efficient, then the rest of this chart is fucking ace. Like his threes are great. Like this long too, this area right here, he just needs to get the volume up. He needs to get the volume up of his attempts from these areas.
With the spacing, right? It's hard to get. That's why a lot of times he's just forced to shoot above the break threes because that's where he has the most space.
Right. I mean, look at this. This is terrible. 1 for 15 from this area of the court.
Yeah, he's short. He sucks from the short baseline. But,
yeah.
I want to do a small trade proposal. I know you were discussed it at some of the guys before. Also, before I do the trade proposal, I was listening to the Will Lou David Thorpe interview driving home, and I was yelling at my speakers in my car to be like, can you correct this guy? It was Masai, and he's just standing there, bro. That guy, I'm like, it's just crazy. Anyways, so let that go, but I was just shocked.
Yeah, I pretty much devoted an entire live to correcting that thing yesterday.
I couldn't believe he just let that dude say that. It was so wrong. I don't know.
I mean, given all the shit that we gave Will Lou and Alex Wong and JD Bunkus and Sid Sixero and everybody for their very incorrect correct take last year about Scottie's work ethic, to allow Thorpe, the exact same guy, to come on again and spew new propaganda about a completely different person that he does not know, right? Talking extensively and with extreme confidence, by the way, about a presser he clearly did not watch.
Giannis 64. Sorry, Giannis has 64 points.
What?
Yeah, 64 points. 32 free throw attempts. 32.
Holy shit, that's amazing.
32 free throw attempts.
32. This night is turning into like everything the Raptors could have possibly hoped for. Right?
He took 3 threes. Giannis took 3 threes he didn't need to take. He went 0 for 3.
That's crazy. Someone's saying Giannis 100-piece? No, not even close. That's not going to happen.
You can't score 100 without threes. It's not happening.
I mean, Will did it.
No one was there to see it. We have a piece of paper that
shut up. It happened. Don't take this away.
No, I believe it.
It definitely happened.
I believe it. It was a white sheet of paper. I believe it. But my trade proposal is
being racist against paper, man.
Get ready for this trade proposal.
Okay.
Pascal Siakam and Grady Dick for Lauri Markkanen and John Collins.
Oh, you're trading Grady, eh?
Yep.
Why?
Because have you seen Lauri Markkanen's stats?
Yeah. Have you seen his contract? Isn't he expiring soon? He
has 1 more year on his contract. He's making, I think, 17 this year, and he's making 18 next year. Not a player option.
Okay, so you're in the exact same position as you're in with OG, where his next contract is going to be super expensive.
Actually, because
you are, because you're not going to be able to extend him. See, that's the problem with these dudes who sign these really low ass contracts is then you can't extend them because there's a limit to how much you can offer them on the extension. So you literally have to watch them get to free agency.
Rob,
and he's going to be a max player, man.
9 3-point attempts a game on 38% shooting. 9.
No, I hear you. He's awesome player.
9 as a first option, shooting 38%.
I prefer Cam.
And he's a movement shooter at 6'9".
I prefer Cam Johnson.
And he's 26. He's 27
Cam's 27.
This season.
Cam is 27.
We won today, Rob. We won today, and we're throwing a parade because Pascal made 4 threes. We threw a parade, right? He made 4 threes. Rory Markkanen.
No, I don't necessarily just
You're not getting it for Pascal. You're not.
Tell me why the Utah Jazz do this. What are they getting? You'd have to really, really value grade Dick if you're Danny Ainge.
So you don't think Utah would do this?
It's kind of like both teams. I mean, I'm not a huge John Collins guy, first of all. No, let me just throw that out there.
He's better than Boucher and Achua.
Offensively, yes. Yeah, defensively, not really. So that's the issue. He's got the T-Rex arms. He's not a rim protector. He's a player that you could definitely put next to Scottie, and I think like he'll be one of the more talented players Scottie's played with, but not an ideal or optimal fit at all as a 5 in the NBA.
Oh, no, and I wouldn't start him.
Oh, you wouldn't start him? You'd come off the bench for you?
Yeah. And by the time Markkanen would be up for an extension, he's an expiring. You can get.
But that's what I'm saying. You can't extend him. It's the same reason we can't extend OG right now. See, when your contract is too low,
yes,
there's an upper limit to how much the team can offer on your next deal, right? So if OG was making $30 million right now, we'd be able to extend him right now. But he's not making 30. He's making 18.
My thought process was, what if you build like the trio of Markkanen, Barnes, and OG, and then you build it out from there? That's a really good team if it's the proper pieces around. But I guess you can argue the same thing with Siakam if you build it properly. Like as you saw tonight, it was pretty good.
I think Siakam gave you a window into. I mean, this is a team that didn't play defense tonight. Let's just be real. They didn't play defense. Offense looked pretty decent. Okay. Not great, but okay. And you just kind of got to see what this looks like when Siakam hits threes. But here's the problem, right? Whether Siakam hits threes or whether Schroeder hits threes, right? They're not being treated like players who are good at shooting threes.
Yep.
And that is really the dividing line that I have between having a guy like Fred VanVleet or Trae Young on your team versus having a guy like Schroeder. Sure. Look, man, Dennis Schroeder can go 5 for 10 from 3.
They don't care.
And Trae Young can go 2 for 18 from 3 in the same game. And I promise you that on the final possession, when Trae Young is taking his 19th 3 and Schroeder is taking his 11th 3, I guarantee you Trae Young will be blitzed on that 3.
Now,
if he's not taking it from like 28 from 34 feet away. So that's kind of like where I'm at with, having actual shooters versus guys who shoot well once every 3 games, but take a lot of shots.
That's what I wanted Markkanen. Because if you have Markkanen instead of Siakam, the Jakob Poeltl actually becomes a much better player. You can use his skill set more because you can play off. Like people cutting it, like if Markkanen cuts, it means more because they're actually on him at the 3-point line. You know what I mean? Where Siakam gets the buffer, like they're just off.
Yeah. Anyway, I do want to let Ghost face on. Any final thoughts, Coach Mo?
I don't trust this team, so us going 2 for 2 against them in back-to-back games, I don't know, man. I just don't trust this team. But we should, but you don't know.
Fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Peace, man.
Oh, and guys, I don't know when the All-Star stuff starts, but pound that Scottie Barnes votes. Just You remember when we used to like vote? Was there ever a time I feel like us as Canadians, or we just had the power to like put our player we loved as a starter? We did it for Siakam. Okay? We've done it for DeMar multiple times, didn't we? If
Was
we can
DeMar a
will a
starter?
player we like as a starter, could we? I
Yeah,
feel
I
we've done it
mean,
before.
I think like, people thought that we did it for Vince. We didn't. China did it
No,
for
no, no, no.
Vince,
We didn't do it
but
for Vince. I agree. I agree. We
China
didn't do
did
it
it
for
for
Vince.
Vince.
There wasn't enough of a fan base to do it for Vince. But how was DeMar a starter one year? There wasn't DeMar a starter before?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Siakam was, for sure. The year
Yeah, but Siakam was also like really good player, and the
yeah,
Raptors were a really good
but he
team,
needed
and he was
votes. He
coming
also
off of
needed
like,
votes.
yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, Canada's a pretty big country. Like, if you really, really, really press it and push it with the championship, buzz and everybody, you have to realize like this fan base is kind of like halved over the last 5 years,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
I just don't think
yeah.
the coaches are going to vote for Scottie because of the record. I don't think the Raptors are going to have a representative if they're not a starter.
Oh, they definitely, definitely are gonna vote for Scotty. I feel like that would be so criminally
Oh,
insane. Yeah.
I sent you like there was that ESPN guy.
Final point here, man. We,
He
we got we got to get off this. Yeah.
he voted for Scottie as an All Star.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
see it? Did you see it?
Yep.
As a starter, and people were losing their minds in the comment section, losing their minds.
No, I
Over
think he's.
Tatum, over Tatum. I was shocked, but
Yeah, I think he deserves it. Anyway,
all right.
peace, man. Have a good one. Peace. Ghostface, what's up?
Yo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh man, so this was a kind of a nice game to watch. You know that you listen to Tribe at all? Tribe Called Quest?
What?
Do you listen to Tribe at all? Or no?
Tribe?
Yeah, Tribe Called Quest.
No, I don't.
Oh well, they got this song off their third album where Phife talking about how he has 99 problems, and like for the past couple of games, that's all I felt it was for Scottie, just like nobody communicating everything bad. But this
Mhm.
game, I think everything on offense at least flowed better. It was just kind of nice to watch after a long while. I was confused on why the Hawks were playing up on Malachi so much, but he created out of it like really well. It was some really nice playmaking.
Yeah, I think defensively he was very compromised. Offensively, he made some really good passes, some in transition, some in the half court, and yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was good. Um, yeah,
Schroeder has some good playmaking chops too. Not consistently, but some of his playmaking look nice. It's kind of
I
rare.
think it's just like I would like Dennis Schroeder to be an occasional secondary handler as opposed to a primary handler,
Yeah.
and so like you could split secondary handler duties between Scottie, Schroeder, and Siakam, and occasionally you'll notice like
Yeah.
Scottie or Siakam, they just kind of like take it and they just go past them, and he kind of looks like, what are y'all doing? You know what I mean? Like, if I'm not bringing the ball up the court, what's my job? And it's just it's a habit he has to break, of just letting the offense go without him and finding something else to do on the court, right? Whereas like
Yeah.
it doesn't work as well when he initiates the offense, and it tends to go, as I said earlier, it goes the wrong pace and it goes to the wrong player very often, and it's never from the position of he's drawn some sort of massive disadvantage or created sort of an advantage, because like that's the thing, like when a guy like De'Aaron Fox or even a guy like Trae Young, when they kind of break down the defense and they get into the paint, they're creating an advantage, they're shifting a defender away from somebody, right? And I watched tonight, when Dejounte Murray was guarding Dennis Schroeder, he was just happily ignoring him in the corner. He would happily just sort of back off. And, when Schroeder has the ball, like they'll guard him, but they're not sending a double. They're certainly not, over helping when he collapses into the paint. They're just trusting that the guy who got him got him. And so when he passes out, he's not usually passing out to a guy who's moving. He's not usually passing out to a guy who's open. It's just
Yeah.
kind of extending, and it's just constantly shortening the shot clock for you. Whereas Scottie, like very often, like when he gets into the paint, he draws two, you know, and it's usually like it's not like the predictable way of drawing two where you just kind of dive into two defenders. It's no, like he manipulates the defense a little bit, and then he quickly passes out to somebody who might be open or might be in a position to score or might be in a position to play make, and then they can go from there. And it just sort of starts a domino effect where you just have to successfully now make 1, 2, 3 reads, and boom, you got a good look. Yeah, I just think that process starts better when it's Siakam or Barnes initiating. But I do like, one thing we didn't mention today is OG's usage. OG's usage has been going up for the last few games, and I'm happy to see it.
He does not look bad as a isolation scorer, play initiator. He actually does not, like, you know what I'm saying? Like last year it looked so clunky, but this year it looks better. And it is nice to see because I know you've been rooting for him to get more touches.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the issue with Dennis when he initiates is he's so much of a straight line driver, and super quick doesn't always equal an advantage. Like the thing with Trae and Dejounte, like you were mentioning, sometimes they'll slow down if they want to let their center cut in more so they can get a lob. Well, as Dennis, it's always just turn on the jets, straight line drive to the rim, and it doesn't end well. Same with Russell Westbrook. Sometimes his layups will blow layups because he's too aggressive.
I think Russell Westbrook is just a much better defender. Sorry, not a much better defender, a much better passer than Dennis Schroeder. And yeah, like while there have been a couple of passes that Dennis has thrown this year where I'm like, ooh, smooth, Um, yeah, it's just not the same. As you said, it's very simple stuff. It's like
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
right there, like he can pass out to the corner or he can pass the guy who's rolling to the basket, but he's not adding that extra manipulation layer to the defense that top level playmakers can
Not
do.
much shift.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, the thing, yeah, like you said with the secondary playmakers, if Scottie does initiate, we have enough secondary playmakers around him, I think, to the point we can keep the defense on their heels. Dennis, Siakam. I think it could
Sure.
work.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I just I think Scottie is just one more off season away from really, really launching into that sort of superstar, all NBA for the rest of the decade type of conversation. And it is close. Like it's really close. Like it's getting scary what he can do with very little runway and very little spacing, right? So when you start to think about what he can do with a slightly more expanded skills package and a slightly more expanded handle and a slightly more consistent shot, and when defenses start adjusting to him as a guy who can make these shots, because they're not going to keep playing off of him if he keeps shooting 39% from three.
Yeah.
Like they can't. Like it's bad practice to do so. So usually, for a non-shooter to go to one of the better shooters in the NBA, it's a wild and sort of somewhat precedented. It's a somewhat unprecedented jump. So I'm not really sure where to go in terms of a comparison for this, right? Like typically a guy will go from like a 32% to a 35%. There's not a lot of guys go from like 28 to 39, you know?
But
So
you did start off last season kind of high, right? For like a month or two?
no, no. So
No?
he was high last year for about 7 games. He was shooting about
Okay.
52%, and then it went down. And then I think within 20 games, he was right down to about 34%. And then
Okay.
he hit a disaster stretch where I think he shot like 25-ish, 24%. Like you certainly do not start the season. And I mean, like there have been stretches in his career where he's gone like 40% for a whole month or 38% for a whole month. But I mean, this is really dating back to preseason,
Yeah, it's
right? If
consistent
you
now.
like this is like a full almost 30 game sample between preseason, regular season. I've been watching this in the summer as well with him, like watching clips of him just draining these threes. And this is just all he did all summer. I hope I have a chance this year to have a conversation with Brian where we can just kind of like dissect what he did last summer. I know a little bit about it, and it's like he just really got in the lab, and it was just boom, jumpers, jumpers, jumpers all day, coming off the dribble, coming off the pick, coming off whatever. And it's just all in-game simulation. So you're watching him do all this and you're like, holy shit, like this is exactly what he's doing all summer, hitting these shots. And I think the most rewarding part about this is to see how happy he is, right? It's coming. It's like slowly coming for him, you know? And it's just like it's piecing together. It's like it's one thing to just kind of think that you could be great one day, but it's another thing to like, have 25, 11, and 6 on a soft night. And you just start to look around and you're like, holy shit, am I actually one of the top 15, 16 players in the NBA?
Yeah.
And again, with how last year went, this was not in the cards for most people, right? So yeah, it's been really nice to see, and it's just nice. It's nicer to think it can get so much better with better teammates that are more optimal fitting and another offseason of work. Like I think 6.1, 6.0 box plus minus. I think this can go to 10, 11, 12. Like that's some all-time shit. But yeah, it can get there it can get there in like a couple of years.
Would you say he's 2 years away from being 2 years away?
I think he's
I'm
2 years.
trolling.
Yeah. No, I'm saying I think he's 2 years away from being in the MVP conversation. To be honest,
That's not a hot take. I don't think it's crazy to say.
yeah,
What's crazy is if you look around Instagram a lot of like the early All-Star predictions, they have Scottie and Maxey in there, and people aren't going crazy about it. So it's like the whole league is saying it now.
yeah. I mean, he's been solid all year. He's been their best player. Like, I mean, Pascal's coming on really a lot lately, and that's great. I'm like really happy to see that because look, he was getting a max contract no matter what. Okay. This is like
Yeah,
no matter what, he's getting a max contract. So anyone out there who was just like, oh, whoa, if the Raptors really, really play their cards right, they'll be like super smart and he will sign for less than a max. Like y'all fucking crazy out of your fucking minds. Like there's no way in hell that Pascal Siakam gets less than a max contract from an NBA team. Like he wouldn't settle for it, and the market would dictate it. But it's nice to see him starting to play more like an all-star. And even if he doesn't make the all-star team based on how he started the season out, he has been known at times to sort of turn a corner as well, right?
yeah.
Like he started the season out pretty strong, and then he went like kind of through a malaise in the middle, and then he kind of finished strong. There's been, in Scottie's rookie season, he kind of finished stronger than he started because that season he was out to start. Then he comes out, he struggles, and then boom, right around the New Year mark, last year. I mean, even it was around the New Year mark that he had the 52 piece against the Knicks. So, I mean, let's see, and again, like you want the Raptors to have options. Like you want them to have options. You don't want them to be, like unfortunately, this team has a pretty bad track record of managing their options the last few years.
Yeah.
And you're starting to get this nauseating feeling that they really, really believe in this core of three players, and they don't want to break it up, and they think it's something to behold. And in their defense, it's not like there's a hell of a lot coming down the pipeline that makes you inspired about a future around Scottie and Grady. It's not like Grady has been like balls out, like where like if you were, I don't know, if you're holding a guy like Jordan Hawkins right now, you could at least see a vision forward where you're like, oh, Scottie and Hawkins, that could be a thing. We could
He's been good.
sell that off or something. But with Scottie and Grady, like it's been tougher. And so, yeah, like, would this, I would personally hate to see this team quadruple down on this core and just say, okay, well, we're 500. It's around the trade deadline. Fuck it. I think a loss today, while Siakam played well, would have been really good for this team. At the same time, it could also be really bad for this team because, you obviously, if you trade Siakam, you want max value back. And I think another loss for the Hawks is a tough pill for that team to swallow, right?
With
Like,
Siakam dropping this many points on him, yeah, it definitely does help his value if they're a team that's interested in him.
yeah, and I mean, like, look, so much of this trade stuff is about selling your own fan base. I remember, being on Twitter Spaces with a lot of Atlanta fans earlier in the offseason when all these Hawks and Raptors rumors were heating up, and they were just really shit talking Siakam. Like they were just like, yo, he's not this, he's not that. I wouldn't give you AJ Griffin. I wouldn't give you Kobe Buffkin. I wouldn't give you this. Well, now I think maybe they're singing a different tune. You know, you watch
Yeah.
Siakam put up 33, 7 and 7 on your team. He's hitting threes, assuming you're not watching him on a nightly basis, clank threes like we've been. And on top of that, your team is dangerously close to, missing the play-in. And, it's falling apart. And at the same time, you are seeing the seeds of success. You are seeing a franchise-looking player in Trae Young, and you're seeing an all-star level player in Dejounte Murray who signed up long-term. And you could easily sell yourself if you're Landry Fields and the Atlanta Hawks. You could easily sell yourself on, okay, look, Kobe Buffkin's not playing for us. AJ Griffin's barely playing for us. Onyeka Okongwu is a really nice piece, but shit, if it means getting Pascal Siakam and saving this core, maybe we need to do this. Now, would they give up all three pieces? That would be a tough sell. But if the Raptors could somehow get all three of those young pieces back for Siakam and they don't pull this off, this would be right up there with not trading Tyrese Maxey. Like,
You'd have a
not
core.
trade.
You'd have a nice core.
You would have a great core. Oh my God. If you can get all three of those players back, like I doubt you can, because that's a lot. But does the emergence of Jalen Johnson kind of change their thinking on the future of AJ Griffin with that team, right? And if you think about it, does a team like Trae Young, Dejounte Murray, Jalen Johnson, Pascal Siakam, right? Assuming you get something back of value in that, let's say you take Hunter back, and then you give them value back like Gary Trent or something. I don't know what value you would give back Malachi Flynn. I have no idea. But assuming you can compensate a little bit more and you take back, because you're going to have to take back salary, like AJ Griffin, Kobe Buffkin, and Onyeka don't make enough. But assuming you take back DeAndre Hunter's contract, that's a negative contract, and you're taking that off the books for them, and you're getting three young assets, and you don't take picks back, which allows them the freedom to potentially still trade for something using the remaining picks. But you, as a team, get your point guard of the future. If you believe in Kobe Buffkin, you get, a nice sniper in AJ Griffin that I'm very high on, and you get, a center who's future-proof, and Onyeka Okongwu, who's suddenly starting to hit threes. So, shit. I mean, I would be happy with two of those players plus picks, but getting all three of those players back in a deal, I would, that'd be great.
How much does Hunter make?
20-ish million, and trust me, he's not worth half of it. Yeah,
that's not good.
And it's a long-term deal. Yeah.
Well, they wouldn't give a bogey, would they?
I mean, that's the thing. Like, depends on what you're trying to do. But that's my point. It's like you have Clint Capella, Jalen Johnson. Like, think about this: Clint Capella, Jalen Johnson, Pascal Siakam, Bogdanovic, Hunter, Trae Young, and Saddiq Bey. That's a 7 deep, right? And plus, you get some value back, like with the Siakam stuff. Like you're doing a 4-for-4 trade or 4-for-3 trade. We'll give you two players back that you can use. Maybe we'll give you a Precious Achiuwa or something like that, right? Because you're giving us Onyeka, we'll give you Precious. So now you get Precious as well. So I mean, like, is that team like a top 3 team in the East? I think certainly there would be a conversation to be had, right? I mean, are they not competitive? I mean, that's a hell of a lot better than 11th.
Yeah, no, I'm saying they'll take him. I think top 3 is a bit of a stretch unless they sing really well.
Yeah, but I mean, like that in terms of a big 3, Dejounte plus Trae plus Siakam is a pretty big 3. That's a really that's a big 3. And if Siakam can hit threes, I mean, that's a big 3 that kind of makes some sense. I mean, the other two guys can hit threes, and Dejounte's been hitting threes, and so like, like it's something. Like you got to consider like the market that you're in there, right? Like they're not a huge free agent destination market, and I don't know. They got to try something.
Works.
Yeah,
you said earlier that the trade talks fell apart. What happened? They didn't want to give up Kobe Buffkin. I read that somewhere. I don't know if that's accurate.
I wouldn't believe everything you read.
Yeah, I know.
I read somewhere that, you know, the Raptors made a promise to Kobe Bufkin and that the deal was basically done, and that's why the Hawks took Kobe Bufkin, and then somehow, you know, Siakam's camp kiboshed it. That is apparently what happened. I have no idea if that's what happened. I do not have inside sources on this in
Mm.
Siakam's camp, so I have no idea. But if that is what happened, it makes a lot of sense. It would also explain why Kobe Bufkin really hasn't been seeming like much of a priority for that team.
He's played like one
And
minute. Like he's played really low.
hmm,
He's played like nothing, next to nothing.
exactly. And there's been a lot of injuries and stuff too. So yeah, um,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, they have not posted the post game live, and yeah, what do you think happens on Friday?
Who do we play?
The Hawks again.
They're at home, right?
Yep. No, we're at home again.
Oh, that's kind of weird.
Exactly.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. They might just come out and this team, our team, it does well one game and then it just falls apart the next. So it's
Hmm.
it's really like it's just a toss up at this point. It's a coin toss.
Yeah.
The Hawks are kind of the same way too.
Yeah. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, just a question. Do you have a video or something on why you didn't want Keontae George? Because he looks all right so far.
Um, don't like his defense, don't like his playmaking, but you're right. He's looked solid, and I had him outside of my top 20,
Ooh, well, you
didn't
had
I?
Shafino over him?
I don't think so. I don't remember my
Okay, good.
exact thing, but I was not high on Jalen Hood Schifino, and I was not
Same.
high on Keontae. I was very, very high on Jordan Hawkins and Cason Wallace. So I don't know. You win some, you lose some, whatever, you know. But yeah, a lot of people have been very, very, you know, big on Keontae George, and you know he had 30 points the other day. You know, was it in a win or a loss?
Not sure.
Yeah,
You are right though. He's not looked good as a defender at all, and he's looked okay as a playmaker. But a lot of his assists are just handoffs. They're good passes, but like he's not really creating as much as you like.
yeah. Cam Whitmore was the obvious choice according to Manny
No,
Gill. I
no.
mean, jeez. I mean, I understand the athletic potential and stuff, but I mean, I think you of all people should know that this is the Raptors, right? Like we have a lot of these athletic guys who don't play very well, and I think Cam Whitmore is just one of those guys who there's like a lot of theoretical potential on defense and offense because of his athleticism, but I don't think it necessarily translates very well.
One of the
And
Precious on this team.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, I don't even think it's as bad as Precious, but like I watched quite a bit of him in college, and I did not walk away thinking that he was someone who had very good feel. Um, you know who is someone who really did impress me though? Jonte Porter, for
Was
the
that
905.
was that Michael Porter Jr.'s little brother?
Yes, it is. And, you know, a lot of really interesting sort of takes have come out of that. And, you know, he puts up, I think, 23 or 27 points. I can't remember, but, you know, he's stroking the three effortlessly. And I was just really impressed. He had a bunch of blocks. And yeah, just like looking at him going from where he was in college as, you know, MPJ's younger brother to coming out now. His shot form was a little bit lower in college. I think he's raised it a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. Like I think it just looks smoother, and something that the Raptors don't really have on this team, which is a stretch big. And you know, kind of interestingly, I saw his draft comparison, and it was Brad Miller. And as I was watching him, without even seeing that, I was just
The
like,
Wolves player?
Brad Miller. So Brad
Probably
Miller
played for the
is
Bulls.
well before your time. He was an all-star for the Indiana Pacers and the Sacramento
Huh.
Kings. Yeah.
The only thing I remember about him is back in 2K12, he was on the Wolves as like a 52 overall. Like it was bad.
Oh, that was definitely the end of his career.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was on the Kings for a little bit. He was, I believe, on the Pacers for a bit. He was a good player. He was a good player, really good passer,
He could
and
shoot.
quite a decent shooter. So yeah, um, yeah, and the terrible play with Shaquille O'Neal, where I think Shaq took like a swing at him. But yeah, um, I think Jonte might be. I think the Raptors might like. I like the two-way guys on the Raptors now, like especially Jonte and
Javon.
Javon Freeman Liberty. Like
We should play
there's some.
Javon.
We should, if you can get healthy, that would be a really interesting thing. Um, yeah, I mean, again, like it's hard to know what these guys become, right? But we're coming from having guys like Stanley Johnson, Svima Heilig. Uh, I look at a guy like Jonte Porter, and I look at a guy like, I don't know, Delano Banton, and I'm just like, I'm more intrigued by what Jonte can do.
Agreed.
So and Mo G, right? Mohamedou Gay, G, like he might be onto something too. I mean, like the 905 have been awful. Like for most of the season, they've been very undermanned. They've been very injury riddled and terrible to watch in general. But there are some players on that team where I'm just like, okay, maybe maybe one of these guys, especially Javon, has that sort of like pop where it's like one off season away. Are they one off season away from being like a Terrence Davis level or Norman Powell level contributor on the next level? That would be cool. It would just be really great if we could develop somebody. I don't know.
We need to give
Anyways,
him a chance for this team. Yeah, we just need to give him a chance.
absolutely.
I think Johnson will solve a lot of things off the bench. And I definitely don't miss Ron Harper Jr. if Johnson's what we got.
Yeah, I never really. I mean, I understood the intrigue when they signed him out of Rutgers, like just as a body type guy, like that sort of like unique, stocky build defender. But when I saw him actually play defense, I was like, okay, this is not going to work. And yeah, offensively, really tough. A little bit slow footed, just didn't work out. And it's not the first guy. But you got to cut your losses fast. Get these guys in and out of your program, and once you've got the data, like once you've seen them in your facility and you kind of see their work ethic and you see their process and you see them on a game to game basis, like there's such an advantage to having a guy in your system or in your program because you can actually put them in positions that maybe other teams wouldn't have and see how they do. They had Ron Harper playing point guard. It's interesting, but yeah. Anyways, Ghostface, thanks a lot for calling in, man.
Peace.
Peace, man. Final caller, J5. J5, what's up?
What's up, Rob? So, yeah, I've been to like the last two games. I was at the game today and the game against Miami, and watching Scottie, like just from the warm-ups, you can kind of tell like he was like a little bit more locked in today, and that's like something like you just can't see really on TV. You know what I mean? They're not really just showing guys stay up lines, right?
For sure.
But just seeing that, like he was a little bit more locked in today, and you obviously could just see it on the court, like from like minute number one, right? Like he was on it today. But yeah, with this team, I don't know. It's kind of intriguing because we're not really, to me, I don't see us being really far off. You know what I mean? Like from being in a good situation. Because I think you can win with Scottie right away. I don't think it's going to be one of those situations where you have to like, oh, we're going to trade Siakam and then we're just going to start losing. You know what I mean? I think you have potential to actually, make some noise, right? Because I don't think that he's doing anything that, for example, someone like Halliburton, you know what I mean? Like having his team, I don't know what Indiana is, 5th or 6th in the East, right? Yeah, like having his team in that type of situation, I don't think Scottie's far off away from it. I just think that players like Schroeder, Poto, I mean, like we see it as fans, right? But like we're just hoping like our front office sees it, right? It's if you can just tweak the bench and obviously those two starters, I don't think you're like really far off. How do you feel about that?
I think I pretty much early on in the season felt, and in the off season felt, that this team would be better than people expected it to be. I expected this team to be around 46, 45 wins, and who knows from there. Like you could win a playoff round. That was when Dennis Schroeder was expected to come off the bench. The decision to start Schroeder over Trent then the ensuing struggles that both players had, adjusting to this new role, right? And the cascading effect of, also having Siakam struggle from three, I think it's like it was too much. And it's just hard to win when this many things go wrong, right? You just don't have a lot of margin of error. Like you wouldn't have had the margin of error for a starter to struggle from three as bad as Siakam has, even if you weren't starting Schroeder, because you already have Jakob. You can't play Jakob with any non-shooters ever.
Yeah.
He can be the only one. And to have Scottie sort of come out positively balanced out, in my opinion, Schroeder being kind of like subpar. But
it would have been
Siakam is the critical mass crater where he just completely craters all of it. So if Siakam turns the corner as a shooter, that was always the swing variable. Where if Schroeder can keep it 32%, Scottie can keep it 36%, OG can keep it 38%, and then suddenly Siakam's like 30 plus, 32, 34. Now you have just enough shooting to tread water, and now you won't be as bad. But then you need the defense to be back to where it was in the first 6 games, and it doesn't seem to be trending that way. And I'm curious why. But yeah, if all of those things work out, and I just listed off a lot of things, if all the shooting works out, and the lineups work out, and the bench can figure it out, and Gary Trent Jr. isn't completely lost off the bench, and we've pretty much given up on Jalen McDaniels, but let's hope that Otto Porter can come back and be healthy. Yeah, I just feel like this team, if everything clicked and Scottie is this guy, then yeah, it works. But that's a lot of ifs.
See, that's the thing though. Like with Schroeder, as the point guard, that's the thing. I was about a week ago, I was like, we just need to get Schroeder out of here, trade Schroeder, Siakam, trade Siakam. You know what I mean? Like I was kind of on that wave, but now I've kind of just cooled back off it. I just said, you know what? Whoever's putting on the Raptors jersey that night, I'm just gonna try and support them, right? Sure. And then that's just how I'm kind of just giving my mindset of the games, how I'm watching it. But someone like Schroeder, I think, it's kind of hard with our cap space because you're gonna have to. I think we're gonna re-sign Siakam. I'm at that point now. I personally think they haven't shown us anything that says, "Hey, you know what I mean? We're really
Well, it's probably a good thing that you think that.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. If Siakam was gone tomorrow, I would be happy. But like I said, I'm gonna support anybody that puts on a Raptors jersey now. So I personally think they're just gonna give him the bag and then say, you know what, next summer when you have 4 or 5 years left on your contract, then your value's probably it can't get any lower than what it is right now, right? So
that's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily true. I mean, like right now. So? No, I mean, look, like right now, if I showed you his sort of season projections like last year, everything is trended down, right? And I mean, we've had a lot of time so far this year. This is not a small sample size. This is not me cherry picking and saying, oh, well, this is him adjusting to a new roster, et cetera, right? His everything is down, and then there's very few things that are up. So let's just hold on, let me just check. In terms of last year versus this year, let me just go to the per 100 possessions. His scoring is down. His to give you an idea of this, look, let me just pull it up on the screen. That way you can see. I don't know if you have your laptop on, or are you watching this on your phone?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, cool. So in terms of like year over year, like this is the gap. You've gone from back-to-back seasons of 3.5, 3.1 boxes minus right to like Tampa levels. 2020, 2021 was a season that the Raptors tanked, and he was 0.8. Like it's almost identical to that season for him so far in terms of boxes minus. In terms of like, are you seeing anything that's going up? Right?
Yeah,
not really.
Things going down. Don't get me wrong, but I just think.
Well, that's the problem. He's 29 years old, and things are going down.
Yeah.
Right. Like he's having Like, and this isn't even like the worst of it. I mean, like, look at the block percentage. We're down to 0.6 blocks block percentage from 4.5 as a rookie.
Yeah.
Like, this is just a number that has gone down almost every single year. Like, if I drew a chart of like all of Pascal Siakam's everything, the whole thing is either flat or down this year. So when I start to think about that, I start to think like, okay, so you start signing this guy to $45-48 million. Now you are owning 4+ years to 5+ years of that decline. If you believe the decline is real, certainly I think you'd be crazy to assume he's going to be better at 32 than he was at 29. Like, you'd be crazy to assume that. There are very few players ever in the NBA history that have ever done that. You even take a guy like LeBron. Like, I'll show you LeBron right now. Like, we see LeBron's dip from age. Okay, so LeBron's a freak of nature, right? Like, we can agree on that, right? Like, LeBron James is like, you know, anything short of the greatest player of all time. But like, look at his box plus minus dip from year 29 to year 32. Like, even for him at 28, look at the gap between 28 and 32. This is a guy who's still playing in his prime right now. Basically, he's extended this prime like infinitely. But in terms of value of a replacement, like this is the peak from which you drop. Now, this is like some all-time great shit. So when you start dropping to 4.9, it's no big whoop. But you look at pretty much any other player's like career trajectory from 29. Like, what's a player that you think is like Pascal Siakam? Just curious. We can look at their career.
Like right now, I would say somebody like, I mean, I don't want to say Julius Randle because like I think
no. I mean like a past player.
Oh, like a past player, like of Pascal Siakam skill level, I would say Rasheed Wallace.
Whoa.
Yeah,
that's wild because Rasheed's one of my
Rasheed Wallace. A better Rasheed Wallace. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm talking about like
you say better Rasheed Wallace. Rasheed Wallace way better than Pascal Siakam, bro.
That's the thing. Are we bringing everything into like accolades and you know what I mean?
Like,
we're just talking about the better players.
I'm telling you right now, Rasheed Wallace in 2000, 2001 was like probably a top 10 player in the NBA. Like his height was like unstoppable. Like Sheed was fucking awesome. Anyways, okay, so if you want to look at Sheed from age 29, which is right there, I think this is probably like the wrong guy to go to because
maybe like between like a Rasheed, maybe like a Paul Millsap.
Paul Millsap might be more accurate.
Yeah, maybe like a Rasheed and like a Paul Millsap, like in between there, in my opinion, like I said.
Yeah, like I'm curious, how old are you?
23.
Okay, so I'm gonna assume you did not watch Rasheed Wallace's prime as an adult.
No, like don't get me wrong. I'm gonna say like I'm a historian of the game, but like I like watch old games, but I wasn't watching regular season games on a Wednesday night, right?
Yeah, no, I say this as someone for whom Sheed was like my favorite player growing up. So okay, so this is I think Paul Millsap is a fantastic example. This is a guy, you know, who kind of hit that like, you know, 3.5 boxes minus. I think you could make an argument that Paul Millsap in his prime, because of his defensive impact, was probably like right on par, if not a little bit better than Pascal Siakam, but sure. So let's say the dip from there, and basically you'd be buying years 30 to 35. So that's what you'd be buying. Sorry, like I've completely moved that off the screen. Okay, here we go. So these are the 5 years you'd be buying on this next contract. And then compare it to the 4 years prior, and you see that there is a significant fall off, right? In terms of everything, in terms of true shooting, there's not really a significant fall off because I guess Millsap was a better shooter. But in terms of value of a replacement, there's a significant gap. In terms of, you know, you look at durability. Look at how many times he played 82 games early in his career, and then suddenly, you know, injuries start to take over. Suddenly you got a 38 game season, you got a 51 game season, a 56 game season, right? So like these things happen with athletes. And, you know, unfortunately, as Gilbert Arenas once infamously said, you don't pay me for what I've done. You don't pay me for what I'm going to do. You pay me for what I've already done, right? And so you're going to pay Pascal Siakam this contract based on what he's done. But unfortunately, because life works in a different way, what you're actually doing is you're paying him for what he's going to be also. And what I think is that unless this 3-point shot comes around and he becomes like a lights out kind of like 34 to 35% 3-point shooter, like he is not going to be a positive asset on the back end of that contract.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's a smart decision. I just think that it's a decision that they're gonna do. You know what I mean? Like I don't think it's gonna be something that like the fan base is gonna like get behind or anything. I just think it's something that I could just see them at the end of next summer saying, here's Pascal, here's like 440, right? 4 years, 40 million each.
And you're positive he accepts this. You're positive he accepts the deal.
We can give 5 years, sorry. We can give 5 years.
Are you positive he accepts this deal?
I mean,
because why are we so sure? I mean, so the one thing that kind of differentiates him from Fred is that you're willing to go max for Siakam. You might not have been willing to go max for Fred. Pardon?
For the extra 5th year?
No. I'm saying like dollar value to dollar value.
So that's the thing. I'm just hoping because we can offer, like I said, the extra 5th year compared to other teams. I mean,
okay,
I'm just banking on that money, saying, you like, hey, at the end of the year, you probably didn't have a great season compared to your recent years, but
I think the Raptors should look at how difficult a trade the Chicago Bulls are finding for Zach LaVine. I think the Raptors. Sorry,
I don't think it's the right thing to do. Sorry.
I think the Raptors need to look at Zach LaVine and Bradley Beal as really good examples of what teams are able to get for non-stars who are paid like stars. And I think that that's a really good comparable to Pascal Siakam, because like Bradley Beal himself is not a guy who moves a needle for you, right? He's not a guy who, is going to win a championship for you, or he's not going to be a playoff number one. He's like a number 2 guy who's paid like a number 1 guy. CJ McCollum is like that too, right? Yeah. So yeah, like I just think, it's difficult to pay those guys as top guys and then expect someone else to want to take on that contract, right? And that's why you don't necessarily get like supreme value back. It's different when you have a guy like Kevin Durant, where he's actually paid that money, and then you get Mikal Bridges plus Cam Johnson plus 4 first-round picks. When you have a real star, they have massive value. But when you don't have a real star like a Bradley Beal, like then you have to basically trade him for Jordan Poole or whatever the hell they traded him for. They traded him for nothing. They basically got nothing back for Bradley Beal. What the hell did the Wizards get back for Bradley Beal?
But I think in Masai's eyes or Bobby's eyes, I think they value him higher than Beal. Like I think they value him higher than a player like Beal. So I think that's why, and like I said, this is not something that I want to happen.
But does the league value him higher than Bradley Beal?
That's the thing. We can't go up because the way.
Yes, you should. You should care. You should care what the league thinks.
It's not. But I'm saying is, yeah. But I'm speaking of the point of Masai and Bobby, right? In my opinion of how they're gonna, right? Obviously, I understand that we have to go off how the league thinks, but in the past, we've seen guys like OG for 3 picks, like they said, reported came up that 3 picks. He was offered for 3 picks, and they said no, he's worth more than that, right? Mm-hmm. Not. Other teams don't understand that, right? We might understand that, but other teams don't understand that. So, like, the way we look at our players, yes, we have to understand that the league might look at them differently, but, that's...
The league is right. We are wrong.
Right, but that's the thing. But that's the thing, though. We know this as a fan base, right?
Well, this is a problem, man. Like, if you want to sell your house, right, and your house is worth $800,000, and you keep asking everyone for $1 million, like that's a problem, right? I mean, no one else is gonna, and your reasoning for wanting $1 million is because you married your wife in the backyard, and it's full of memories. Nobody fucking cares about your memories. That's the problem. Nobody cares about your memories. And if OG and Siakam are worth more to the Raptors because they developed them, well, that's it. That's exactly it, right? When a guy wins a championship with you right? They're always worth a little bit more to your market than they are in another market. And it's a mutually beneficial thing. It's one hand washes the other. Siakam also has more value in this market for his own brand than he would in Atlanta or Indiana, right? He's a guy who won a championship here. He doesn't get to take that with him, right? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
So that element of winning a championship can kind of cement a guy in a market where he becomes an NBA champion in that market, just like Fred did, just like, Kawhi did, just like Kyle did. And that boost can be there, but it's only there for that market. It doesn't have as much transference in another market. And if you want any evidence of that, just look at how Miami Heat fans talk about Kyle Lowry's contract.
Yeah.
Why did we sign this bum? He is not very good. He is out of shape. He is this. He is that. Certainly the Raptors would not feel that way about him. Raptor fan base would just be like, that's our champion. That's the guy who led the We the North era. He can do no wrong by us. So therein lies the sort of, crux of the issue with, but as a general manager and a president, you can't think like a fan. You can't think like, oh, he won a championship with us and we raised him and we drafted him and we found him. And so he's worth, an extra first round pick that no one else sees in him, because you never ever trade him. Then you never get it. You never trade him. And even if it's because you value his player type, his player archetype, you have to look at the data and say the player archetype is not working for you.
Yeah.
Like you're losing with him. You're kind of like destroying some element of Scottie's ascent as well by muting it. It's irresponsible. It's irresponsible management, and keeping him, it could backfire in a multitude of ways. It can backfire because I don't think he'll necessarily be worth the contract to begin with, but I think it just gets worse. But I think if you don't think enough about the asset of what it's actually worth to the rest of the league, you realize that at some point down the line, when you're trying to build a competitive roster around Scottie, you're not going to be able to, because you'll have an albatross contract on your books that doesn't fit.
Yeah. I just don't want fans to be surprised when the trade deadline passes and Siakam's still on the team and they try and do like a Fred situation where they're willing to give you a decent sized contract. We were willing to give Fred, you know what I mean, good money. It's not like Fred was going to get the same contract again that he was on before. He was going to get a raise, right? I think, and they're just betting on.
They were willing to give it to him. They were willing to give him 32 million.
What's the difference with Siakam? Why, why do people think it's just going to be different? And this is what I had to think myself out of, right? Obviously, but like, why should we think that it's going to be any different with Siakam? What have they shown us that it's going to be any different? That they're not going to walk to the table.
I think the difference here is pretty simply that because Fred walked, you don't have enough, and you've had to change your timeline, right? Before Fred walked, you still had a timeline in which this could work, but the balance is completely off now, where unless you genuinely think that OG plus Siakam on a max, like both those guys on a max plus Scottie on a max,
yeah,
like that's 3 max players, and they don't even remotely get you to a championship window, not even close. And you're in the tax with those 3 salaries and you have nothing around them. Like, that's crazy to me. Like you would have to become completely completely insane to want to build to build a contender long term around those 3 players.
And the scary thing is the possibility of you saying all those words again can happen 8 months from now. Those exact words can come on, you know what I mean? Because this is a possibility. We have to be real with ourselves as fans, right? Like, this is a possibility of them just, it's not like out the door that you're just gonna trade him no matter what, right? He can stick around, right? So don't get me wrong, I would like to see him gone, but it just is what it is, right?
It's not tenable, is what I'm saying. Like it's like the Jakob thing, right? Yeah, you can trade for him. For sure you can trade for him. But long term, like, you can't win if you have this guy on your roster taking up $20 million and a starting salary. Like you will be, handcuffed in certain playoff series where teams will just absolutely spam. Like, there's no championship window for the Raptors as they currently are. And they have to identify that and say, look, The best case version of what we are building to with this is a first round exit.
Yeah.
That's the best case. A first round exit or maximum lucky first round, other teams injured, second round exit. That's not what they said they were going to do. So you can say that, yeah, signing Siakam, whatever, retain the asset, kick the can down the road, etc. I have questions about whether Siakam will even sign.
You think so? That would be.
I mean, you can say it's going to be the 5 year, but certainly there will be teams out there that will be able to draw him in with winning. You know, maybe they'll be able to draw him in and woo him with you know, the allure of playing in a market with less tax. This certainly is a guy who enjoys the warm weather. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know.
He could show us all indications that he's gonna, you know, or signs that he's gonna resign, and then summer can come, and then he can walk out that door right for free. And
I mean, what's left here? I mean, his coach of choice is gone. His best friend is gone on the team. Fred is gone, right? You can say it's comfort, but there's got to be some people in his ear pushing. I mean, he knows they tried to trade him several times. He's been aware of that, so much so that his camp had to basically put out a PSA saying, you know, hey, like, he's not going to resign anywhere else. Don't try to trade for him. And so, yeah, like, I mean, I don't necessarily think that indicates that he wants to stay in Toronto. I think that indicates that's where his relationship is with this front office. And it also, you know, communicates to me that maybe he just doesn't want another team to make a trade for him because he doesn't want to spend a year just randomly somewhere else. He would rather be able to make this decision for himself in free agency. And look, man, like, with the amount of money that LA teams can sometimes offer when it comes to brand deals and off court, you know, stuff, with the amount of, you know, tax savings that teams in Florida and Texas, et cetera, can offer. I mean, San Antonio will have cap space.
yeah.
Why doesn't he go there? You know, play for Greg Popovich, perfect fit, right? Be great for his brand too.
Philly
like,
making.
So
I could see Philly making room for him. And
sure, Philly's another example, like, where he gets to go and play with, you know, Nick Nurse if he wants to go and play with Nurse. So
Angela.
I mean, I have no idea what his relationship is like with Joel Embiid. I'm not going to assume that because they're both from Cameroon that they're like best friends or something.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying, like, I think that whole situation, I mean, realistically, any player like that's trying to win, you know what I mean? If we have to be real with ourselves, Philadelphia is in a better situation than us, right? So to say that he's going there to try and, you know, win more championships, we
absolutely
can't say, right, like, no, we can't hold you to that. Nah, like, he's setting himself up, right? And we tried to get rid of him, like you said. So it's not like I don't think he owes us anything anymore. But they might see it as, hey, we might owe you something, right? We might owe you more money down the line
because we tried to trade you.
I mean, that's the crazy. Anything is open with our front office. I genuinely believe that, because I don't know what goes through their heads. So anything might be open, because there's so many situations where they've made decisions that are very, you know, mind-boggling in my eyes, at least. And I just think that why is that going to stop? Why is that, you know, why are these decisions going to stop?
Do you think Cam Johnson is a star
from the Brooklyn Nets?
Yep.
No, I don't think he's a star. Not a star.
Would this team be better if you had Cam Johnson in place of Pascal Siakam right now?
Oh, for sure.
Okay, what does that tell you? How many stars could you possibly replace Cam Johnson with and make the team better? You can literally do it with guys like Bradley Beal, and that's it. You cannot do it with a real star. You cannot do it even with a Kyrie Irving. You cannot say Luka plus Cam Johnson is going to be better than Luka plus Kyrie. You can't do it with even a Jaylen Brown. So really, I mean, if this team is so stupid that they do not realize that Pascal Siakam would be paid like a top 10 player, even though he's not a top 30 player, they're crazy. And they deserve to be, you know, fired. They honestly do. If they have a long-term strategy which involves pairing Siakam and Barnes as a 1-2 punch going forward, like, they're crazy. Like, I understand their love affair with long switchable wings, but defensively, the Siakam, two-way impact train is slowly falling off a cliff. He is no longer an elite two-way defensive impact guy. I think he's still above average, but he's not like a top 10 player at his position defensively. And he's straddling the line of being a top 7 player offensively at his position right now, maximum. Like, it's just not a good fit. It's not a good fit. They occupy all the same fucking places on the court. It doesn't fit on the timeline. It doesn't fit on the age gap. The only thing it does is it fits for a year or two. It kicks the can down the road. It allows you to have a guy who's still got some familiarity and cachet from the championship run. But I think the days passed, man. Like, they tried to trade him. Like, I keep telling you, like, they tried to trade him. The trade was done to the Atlanta Hawks. I feel like this trade was done. And it's like, once you've tried to trade a guy and you were done, like, emotionally, both sides were done. Like, it was through. And then, their camp comes out and they says that he won't resign or whatever. I think it's just, there's no going back from that. And you're walking into free agency and they have all the leverage because they know you can't afford to let them walk for nothing, because you already let all these guys walk for nothing. And basically it's like he has your job in his hands. And the further you kick this can down the road, I mean, I'm on the one hand, I'm very happy that people like you are out here believing that they realistically want him back, that they could take him back, because that is the only thing that is actually going to give you any leverage in these trade talks.
And that's what I think Masai's I think Masai's like craving that. And they didn't like, and last time I was on the live, it was like, I think game 10 of the season. And they didn't like that I was bringing up Bobby's name too much. So I'm not going to bring up Bobby since it's Masai doing everything. So I'll just say Masai from now on. But, I'm not saying you, I'm just saying there was a couple comments, right? So I'll just say Masai. So since Masai, I think that he's craving that. You know what I mean? Wanting that leverage back around the league, like trying to have maybe any type of asset that can give him that. Because realistically, I think obviously Scottie's the ultimate asset, right? But OG and Pascal are your. Other than that, you don't have anybody else that you could say is like a plus side asset. I don't think. All right, so I mean that really, I think he's craving that feeling of just having, some type of power back or leverage back in trade talks, where he might just, like I said, he might cough up the bag, and as Raptors fans, we're just gonna have to live with it.
Look, I mean, everything is set up perfectly for the Raptors. The teams that they really could trade with, which is the Golden State Warriors, right? The Golden State Warriors are struggling hard, and even more so right now. They may have the incentive to give up more than they would have a couple of weeks ago because of everything that's happening with Draymond right now. You have a superstar in his prime in Steph Curry. You have, sponsorships, and there's so much money coming down the line. And there's so much money on the line for these teams, right? That a first round pick should not even be like freaking in the equation, right? Like with the new TV deal, like these teams, they have like, and I understand it from the Raptor side too. Being bad, it hurts. It hurts the value. It hurts the value of your team. It hurts the value of your ticket prices. It hurts the value of your sponsorship deals, etc. But as the viewership goes up, the TV deal goes up, everything goes up. The spread or the gap between the haves and the have-nots just gets bigger in terms of like dollar amounts, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's like whereas before we might have been talking about a $300,000 gap between being bad and good, now we're talking about like 800,000. Sorry, 800 million. Sorry, not 300,000, 800 million. And that's big, So the Siakam and Curry extend the Clay Steph thing better than Chris Paul? Of course it does. Could it unlock something completely different that they haven't had in years? Could Siakam be the best player that Curry's played with since Durant? All of these things are true. And could it reinvigorate, that entire fan base? Yes. Now, is Brandon Pajimski, Jonathan Kuminga, and 2 future firsts worth that? Hell yes. But none of this could be possible if the Warriors were not struggling right now. Consider the Kings and the Pacers right now and where they are. So they are I think, in a position where both teams have, superstar level point guards. They think they're superstars that are lacking wing help and defense, right? And the Raptors have an abundance of those types of players, whether it be Precious Achua or Chris Boucher or Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby. So you have all these teams. And then, of course, you have the Atlanta Hawks. So you have 4 trade partners. These are the 4 trade partners for the Raptors, and they're all in prime position. So, you just need 2 of them to make an offer and then use that leverage against each other. And then it should work out for you. Anyways, yeah. The Raptors are in a good position is what I'm saying. Like, I mean, and if you yourself can be in a position where it's not obvious that you have to tank, right? Like, you don't have a draft pick. Everyone knows you're not really tanking. And if you can get to like close to 500, now the other team might be like, oh shit, like they don't have to trade Siakam. They can just ride this thing out. And if you can have him playing well, and you can even like, give people the impression that you're committed to this long-term thing of, Siakam and Barnes. And, a lot of people around the league have just believed that you have to trade Siakam because he doesn't work with Barnes. And now you're seeing these guys clicking in the same game, right?
Yeah.
You haven't put in 25, 25, 30, 25 up in the same game. And now people are like, oh shit, like we want that. So I don't know.
I don't think a night like tonight, like I'm not gonna say like it's an anomaly, but like I just don't think Siakam can do this consistently. Like the threes, like this season he hasn't shown us that he's gonna hit the 3 ball consistently. So I'm not gonna go believe that next game against the Hawks is gonna go hit another, I think 3 or 4 threes like he hit like tonight. Right. But I think Scottie is somebody that it's obviously sustainable. I think they need to just work on getting him going. And then once they realize, once we get like our engine going, then everything will go along with it. Right. But I don't think the players, some guys just don't understand that. Like they just simply just don't understand that. And I don't know. It just is what it is.
Yeah. Anyway, J5, thanks a lot for calling in, man. Really appreciate it. Good night. Okay, and we will go to the post-game live and hear what the Toronto Raptors had to say.
First half, the pick and roll coverage wasn't, pristine, and in the second half, you made those 2 plays. First on the lob, on the floater, and then on a lob. What sort of changed in terms of your ability and the team's ability as a whole to guard those actions?
I don't know if much changed. Like it's obviously a very tough action to guard because Trae Young's coming off those screens and he's fast coming off, but he's able to pull up from deep and stuff like that. So you're kind of caught between staying with the roller and like trying to help the guard with the coverage. I just try to make a play, to be honest. Like I saw him, like I thought he was pulling up for the floater, and I saw an opportunity, so I went for it.
Darko was saying yesterday that he's got a lot of faith in you guys as a starting 5, wants to give you at least a few more games to figure things out before making any decisions. All 5 of you were clicking tonight and had a really good night. How much does that mean to you guys to have that kind of backing from the head coach?
I think the trust is obviously like it's earned, not given. So we got to earn that trust. We got to earn that respect. So far, like we've had good stretches, we had bad stretches. I think it's one of those situations where like we don't want to overreact. Like we think, or I think we saw that the lineup can definitely work. We had a little tough stretch right there where we couldn't really figure it out. Like we're down, maybe our confidence was down a little bit, the energy was down a little bit, but yeah. I think I kind of see it his way. Like I think the lineup can definitely work, and we've seen it.
What would Siakam shooting from 3 like that do for you guys? What consistency?
Obviously, like tonight we made some shots and it helped us. Like there's no questions about it. But I think we stuck with our offensive game plan. We knew they're very like. Very talented offensive team, but they had some holes on defense, and we tried to attack that. And tonight, like I said, it really helped that we made our outside shots as well.
I think it's a couple games in a row now where Pascal, OG, and Scottie have each scored 20 points. Obviously, each of those guys are capable of doing that on any night, but to have all 3 of them do that at the same time, what does that do for your offense?
Yeah, like I said, it helps. Obviously, like we're. when we have 3 guys in the 20s, like that's a good baseline for us to like build on, and then the rest of us gotta fill it out. Like the NBA nowadays is probably a lot more high scoring than it was like in past years. So we kind of need that offensive spark from them to keep up with these high powered offensive teams.
Got to feel a lot better after a win than you were describing what it feels like when you've kind of had a few losses in a row. So you came out with a lot of focus. I think your first 4 baskets were in the paint after rim. How much was that in your mind going into the game?
Just trying to be more aggressive. I think obviously like you lose some games in a row. Like we just gotta have a sense of urgency to come into the game. Just go out there and like try to do everything that we can to get a win. Like I think at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. More energy, more focus, more communication, and all that is needed like for us to be able to win these games. And we got to understand that like that's what it's going to take. Like it's going to take a lot more than just showing up. Like we got to have extra energy, extra effort. I thought we did well today in terms of that. A lot more communication. We just got to keep that going.
Pascal, with your 3-point shot dropping tonight, I know that you've been struggling with it a little bit. It's turned around the last couple of games. What has that process been like for you? Are you working on things mechanically, or are you just trying to get shots to go down in practice so you see it going through?
I'm just consistent just work. Like at the end of the day, like I understand that it's basketball at the end of the day. Makes and misses. Like I'm not mad at the shots that I took. I'm not mad at the mechanics. I'm not mad at anything. Like like I said before, it's like a couple of those in and outs go in, and it's like a different thing. So I just like you can't focus on that as a player. And for me also just knowing the amount of work that I put in, like I have to trust that. And at the end of the day, like I'm living with whatever happens. Like I'm at peace with that, just because I know like the process that comes into like being at that level and like putting the work in every single day. So for me, like you won't hear me talk about it. I'm not worried about it.
We just heard you talk about it, number one. And number two, does this feel like a guy who just won a game? There's some real heavy energy, and in a way, like I'm happy that this team realizes that they're not playing well, and that they like there's a completely silly way to react to beating the Hawks right now, given the way that they played defense tonight, and to just get way too carried away, right? And I have to be careful myself to not be too gung-ho, right? And to be so depressing after every one of these wins, like because wins are so hard to come by for the Raptors right now that, you finally win one after 4 games. And for me to come out and just be like, this is a fucking fake win. The Hawks are trash. They played terrible defense. You deserve to lose this game. Then, I become a part of the problem too. But if I do the thing that I'm assuming, some of the media will do where, if they beat the Hawks on Friday, they're like, all right, here's the turn of the corner. I need to see it against better teams. Like, I don't give a shit what you do against the Hawks. I really don't. You're supposed to beat this team, and with the way that they're playing and the fact that they're undermanned, you should beat that team, right? And you could have easily lost tonight as well. That's the thing. Both teams are bad, and you could have easily lost. But I will not rate this team until they play the right way. And playing the right way does not mean giving up 39 points in the opening quarter to the Hawks. Playing listless defense, right? So you need to win the right way. Winning the right way is, how you played against the Minnesota Timberwolves, how you played against the Milwaukee Bucks, right? Like where your defense was good and your offense treaded water. I think that's a sustainable model for this team. I'm happy to see that Pascal and Scottie and OG are getting going in the same game. Hopefully they figured something out there, but I need to see that defense come back to earth. Like, not come back to earth. I think I need to see it trend closer to top 10 than bottom 10 for me to buy that this team can do anything. Anyway, go on.
Just continue to do the things that I do every day, preparing, and then when I get into the game, just shooting that with confidence.
Did you notice things different defensively tonight? Other than you guys just scored a lot of points, or you weren't?
I mean, I thought we had a solid game. Like, I think obviously, like, we had a couple of mistakes at the end of the game there, where, like, you know, like, they came back into the game. But I think for the most part, like, we were solid into like the principles that you know the coaches want us to have out there in the game. I thought we did it a lot better. I thought we trusted it a little bit more. I thought we communicated well, which I feel like that's something that we got to do better. And it's just like I always say, it's like the character of our team. Like we have a lot of like just quiet people. So it's like we go out there in the game, like we had to find a way to like, you know, energize each other, find a way to like communicate to each other. Like and I thought we did that like better today.
By communication, you mean like yelling, "I got this guy," or "I got"?
Right, or like I got your help. You know, like just knowing that you have somebody there and like just trusting that a little bit more and some of the concepts that we have on defense, just like applying them and at the same time, it's like sometimes you're in the game, like you don't know, or you don't like, not that you don't know, but like you can just be thinking something else, or you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And if your teammates telling you like, "Oh, hey," it just reminds you, you know, like. And I think like sometimes we just miss that.
How do you create that as a team? That, you know, as you said, a lot of quiet guys. Like, how do you build into a role where people?
No, we just gotta keep talking. Like everyone gotta, like, you know, it's taking all of us. Like today, I tried to do a little bit more of that, like on defense, just like talking to OG, talking to Dennis, talking to Scottie, like just making sure that they hear my voice. And I hope that, you know, like it's gonna carry and like all of us can just like be on the same page in terms of that.
Oui, Pascal, une question en français. Félicitations pour la victoire. 5 tirs marqués à 3 points aujourd'hui. Est-ce que c'était une décision d'être agressif à 3 points, ou bien c'était juste de regarder ce que la défense te donnait en attaque?
Ah ouais, c'est ça, c'est regarder ce que la défense donne et pour moi c'est juste continuer à croire au travail que je mets sur mes tirs et puis juste les prendre avec un peu de confiance et puis c'est tout. Moi le résultat après, peu importe. C'est juste prendre les tirs que je dois prendre et aussi avoir la confiance.
Vous avez, toi, OG et Scottie, vous avez eu plus de 20 points aujourd'hui. Est-ce que c'était aussi une décision prise collectivement d'être agressif
Non, c'est continuer à jouer. Tout ce qui est ouvert, essayer de le prendre. Ouais, il n'y a pas d'effort de le faire. C'était juste venir au match. On savait que ce match est très important pour nous. On doit le gagner et puis bon, donner tout ce qu'on peut.
Est-ce que, Pascal, il y avait, avant ce match, quand même un sens de l'urgence parce qu'il y avait 4 défaites de suite?
Ouais, bien sûr. Quand tu perds 4 matchs d'affilée, c'est compliqué. Donc, je pense que ouais, tout en équipe, c'est essayer de pouvoir trouver des trucs positifs et ouais, la victoire, ça aide toujours. Donc, on doit continuer à construire sur cette victoire et ouais, voir ce qu'on peut faire de mieux, continuer à s'améliorer. Mais ouais, après avoir perdu 4 matchs, ouais, la victoire est décisive.
Dernière question, tu as dit quelque chose de très intéressant en anglais par rapport à la communication. Défensivement, vous aviez été dans le top 10 sur les 10 premiers matchs et il y a eu vraiment une grosse chute. Pour toi, c'est vraiment ça, manque de communication? Comment t'expliques?
Ouais, je pense que c'est ça. C'est une partie, manque de communication, mais aussi l'effort. Donc, ouais, ces matchs, c'est genre, on joue en équipe, tout le monde, en NBA, tout le monde est talentueux. Donc, tu viens tous les soirs, il faut avoir le même focus, il faut avoir la même intensité. Et aussi, je pense que la communication aide aussi.
Merci.
12 transition from 12 fast break points, so I guess it's sort of easy to deal when you're scoring 136, right?
Yeah, so we did good job there in transition. We talked about that before the game. That was a big part of it. There was some miscommunication early in the game that got Trae Young going with his threes. A couple of pick and rolls guard that we did not do a good enough job. I thought second half we did much better in that aspect. But you know, give them credit. Trae Young, 35 points and 17 assists, a hell of a job. You know, they're very, very talented and potent offensive team.
What do you think of Pascal's game? I know he made a bunch of threes, but his shot selection seemed to be very on point.
shot selection, rebounding. He's moving the ball. He's playing the right way. He had a great game, and he got a chain today.
You mentioned the pick and roll coverage. Yak had 2 plays, one a block of Trae's shot. I think the other was going to be a lob. On plays like that, are those just great reads by Yak, or does it come because the other guys are sort of in the right place?
Great reads by Yak, definitely there. We had a couple of similar situations in the first half where we did not pull the trigger and they got all the way to the rim. Murray lay up and Trae Young lay up. But there, when the game was on the line, in the most important and crucial moments, he did a great job with reads and blocked 2 shots there. Also made free throws at the end, right?
You got in the first half, the second unit struggled a little bit. And then in the third quarter, they really seemed to kind of stabilize your group, and Malachi seemed to be right in the middle of all of that.
We did. In third quarter, we switched there a little bit in the second half, and we put Dennis to play 3 stints and to match minutes with Trae Young, but also to help our second unit to be even more and better organized. I thought that Malachi did solid job today. He got 8 assists, did not make a shot, played good defense, and that just shows you from day one. I'm telling him, you got to find a way how to affect the game without scoring and really depending on your shots. So I'm glad that he did it today. Continue, Bill.
A rough stretch for Gary here. Was it nice to see him get going a little bit in the third quarter?
Oh, absolutely. He is amazing shooter. I want him to shoot the ball even more, and he's a couple of times, even tonight, he had a couple more shots that he could take, and he goes into shot fake and drive. I just want him to have that confidence and to have the whole team to have confidence in him taking those shots. If Gary Trent goes out there and he misses wide open shots, I don't have any problem sleeping at that night, win or lose. So I have absolute confidence in him, and I'm glad that he was able to help us tonight and play well.
Dennis hit 10,000 points tonight.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know that.
Now that you know?
Now I know.
What
Okay.
What does that mean? What does that say about him as a player?
Well, Dennis just keeps pushing the envelope. He's established player in this league, worldly recognized MVP of the World Cup. He just continues to help us in so many ways that you might see and you might not see on the court. But off the court, he's just doing an amazing job communicating with guys and helping everybody, and really, really good accomplishment for him for the 10,000 points.
Fucking Christ. Okay. 10,000 points on 53% true shooting. Congratulations there, Dennis Schroeder. Y'all gotta be kidding me, man. How you get 10,000 points if your value replacement is lower than Corey Joseph and 3 times lower than Patty Mills? How you get 10,000 points? Probably because you have a whole bunch of coaches who don't understand. Y'all gotta be kidding me, man. Anyways, good game overall. I hope the Raptors can sustain this. Maybe this is the turn of something. I don't know. Certainly, talent has, in my opinion, not been the issue. I think buy-in has been the issue. Communication has been the issue. Fit of talent has been the issue. Lineups have been the issue. Rotations have been the issue. Decision-making has been the issues. There's so many issues on this team. I don't think talent is one of them. I don't think the overall talent level, if I stack it across the Pacers or the Hawks or the Nets, teams of this nature, clearly you're not more talented than the top of the East. But if you look at a team like Orlando, you look at a team like Toronto, you really telling me you think Orlando is way more talented than the Raptors? They are not. It is a team that has chosen to play together. They have pieces that fit together better. They're making better decisions, and they're playing harder. Okay? So, yeah, there's another world in which the Raptors fully buy in. They play together. They play smarter basketball, and they're where the Orlando Magic are right now. Okay? Devin Patterson saying, talent level of the bench is an issue. No, I don't think it is. I don't I think Grady is plenty talented. He just hasn't played well. I think, Gary is plenty talented. I think Precious is plenty talented. It's just his decision making is absolutely awful. I think Otto Porter is a bench player in the NBA for almost every single team. He is a rotation player, right? Precious Achiuwa is a fringe prospect who comes in at the end of the bench. I mean, there's tons of teams that play bigs in their lineups that are less talented than Precious Achiuwa. Are any of them less intelligent than Precious Achiuwa? Probably not, right? But yeah, I think, again, I don't think talent is the issue. I think the lineup synergy has been an issue. I think play style has been an issue. I think buy-in and communication on defense has been an issue. Effort level, compete level, professionalism, night to night, leadership. All of these things to me are issues. But when you look at a team, and again, maybe I'm unusually high on some of these players, but the talent of a Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby, a Scottie Barnes, especially where Scottie is right now, where he's trending, this should be enough to make you a 47-win team. It should be enough. If you can keep this offensive talent, right, and your bench guys and your guys who are supposed to hit shots off the bench, like Otto and Gary and Malachi and Grady, like, guys of Boucher, Precious, if these guys can hit shots off the bench, open shots that the stars or key guys are creating for them, if they can just take the shots and make the shots that they're supposed to hit, yeah, man, you have 10 solid NBA players, okay? And then, they're two-way guys. Most of your team is two-way guys. So, yeah, if you were a top 7 defense and a top 18 offense, you're a 47-48 win team. And quite frankly, if you're that good defensively, you should be a pretty good road team, and you could be a pretty good playoff team. Because again, if Scottie is the star, right? If he's really a star and Siakam is a good Robin to his Batman, if one of these guys can ascend to that level of Batman, then, are you really think, do you see someone on Orlando that's better than Scottie Barnes? I don't. Not at all. I don't think Paolo is better than Scottie Barnes. I don't think Franz is better than Scottie Barnes. I don't necessarily see anyone on Brooklyn who's better than Scottie Barnes right now. Again, I see a team that's playing better. I see a team that's playing more connected. I see a team that is guarding harder, but I don't see a team that's better. So again, you should beat the Atlanta Hawks the way they're playing right now. And you should beat the Charlotte Hornets with or without LaMelo Ball. And you should beat, at least 12 teams in this league on a nightly basis. You should beat the Chicago Bulls. You have a loss against the Bulls. You have a loss against the Hornets. You have a near loss against the Spurs. You have a near loss against the Wizards. This is a team that's played down to its competition. They've played with their food, and they've been burned for it. So come together, grow a pair, get some pride, defend your home court, and see where this goes. No, this is not a title contender the way it's structured right now. And yes, I think Jakob was sick today. I saw him coughing, sniffling a lot on the bench, and I wonder if he has COVID. Honestly, like the way that he was just like, like breathing in the post game. I wonder, because COVID does attack your lungs, right? So, I mean, I hope he doesn't. Touch wood. I really hope he doesn't. But yeah. Anyways, all right. I will talk to you guys later. Good win for the Raptors, and let's keep the good times rolling with 2 more wins against Atlanta and Charlotte. You'll move closer to 500, and then boom. Then you have a test. Denver, Philadelphia, and see what you can do against those teams. And hopefully, this whole thing that Dennis Schroeder said about like the second 20-game mark, this second 20-game stretch, maybe. Someone said the other day that this is maybe an internally expressed mandate that Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster have just kind of told, the team and the coaches that, hey, you have 40 games to show us who you are. And, if you're 500 around 40 games, then we'll consider it a good sign. I wouldn't consider it a good sign, but there's certainly no incentive to tank. And to those people saying, well, if you're around 6th, you should try to tank. I think that if you're, when I say 6th, I mean 6th from the bottom, not 6th, in the East. I think, and this is scaring me already, but I think if this team rallies off like 5, 6, 7 wins, they might go the opposite direction, whereby they may waive the protection on their pick and then suddenly make 2026, that 2026, 2028 pick becomes available. And I wonder if Jalen McDaniels plus Chris Boucher plus Thaddeus Young plus 2 picks gets you, that lead initiator that you so desperately need. I don't know. But yeah, we'll see. Anyways, talk to y'all later. And please do like this video on the way out. I would super, super appreciate it. And to our 2 super chats, NY4 Raps and Gone, very, very much appreciated, guys. Thank you so much. And thank you for supporting Penn Saturday basketball in the midst of yet another kind of sad, kind of depressing season. It means a lot to me that you guys are supporting this channel and attending these lives, and these lives are still getting healthy viewership, because I do realize, how lucky that is. And I realize, it's not to be taken for granted. That's time that y'all spend. So thank you so much. All right. Peace. Have a good one.